Hey guys, tonight we are going to walk through the muddy, torchlit streets of a world that has long since vanished. We're going back to a time and a place where piety and vice lived side by side, often in the same person, on the same street. And in this world, we're going to explore how a woman's greatest asset, her beauty, could also be her most profound and dangerous curse. It's a story about survival, but be warned, the glamour is only a thin veneer over a very harsh reality. You probably wouldn't last a day, and frankly, neither would I. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Go ahead and leave a comment with your city and the time right now. It's always fascinating to see where our little community gathers from in the quiet hours. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice isn't a sight, but a smell. It's a thick, complex wave of odors that seems to cling to the back of your throat: damp earth, coal smoke, roasting meat, unwashed bodies, and the sharp, sour tang of waste running in a channel down the middle of the street. You've been walking to days, maybe weeks, leaving behind a life that was all you knew for this. The city, from a distance, its stone spires and walls promise safety, opportunity, a new beginning, deafening maze of humanity. You pull your thin shawl tighter around your shoulders, a useless gesture against the chill that has less to do with the air and more to do with the gnawing emptiness in your stomach. You stand just inside the city gate, a piece of human driftwood washed up on a shore of ceaseless activity. Carts rattle over the uneven cobblestones, their wooden wheels threatening to splinter in the ruts. Men with faces smudged with soot haul barrels off their shoulders, their shouts lost in the general din. Women in dark, heavy dresses hurry past, their gazes fixed forward, purposefully ignoring the lost look on your face. You are invisible, and yet you feel intensely watched. Every shadow seems to hold a pair of eyes. The sheer number of people is overwhelming. Back in your village, you knew every face, every family, every story. Here, you are a ghost, a nobody, and that anonymity is both terrifying and, in a strange way, a little liberating. You take a hesitant step forward, your worn-out leather shoes sinking into a slurry of mud and things you'd rather not identify. A large pig, its bristles caked with filth, snorts past your ankles, rooting for something edible in the gutter. This is a common sight, these city-dwelling pigs acting as a sort of organic garbage disposal unit, a strange and surprisingly effective, if not very hygienic, part of the urban ecosystem. You press yourself against the cold, damp wall of a building to let a richly dressed merchant on horseback pass by, his fine clothes a world away from your own travel-stained rags. He doesn't even see you. Why did you come here? The question echoes in your mind, but the answer is blurry, worn down by hunger and exhaustion. Was it the promise of work, or were you pushed out by a famine, a family death, or a scandal you couldn't outrun? Historians still argue about the primary drivers of urban migration in this era, whether it was the magnetic pull of the city's opportunities, or the desperate push of a rural poverty. Standing here with nothing but the clothes on your back and a face that is beginning to feel like a liability, the academic distinction is meaningless. It was simply the need to go somewhere else, anywhere else. As the afternoon light begins to fade, painting the narrow streets in hues of orange and deep purple, your anonymity begins to feel different. You notice the glances now. They're not the dismissive looks of the busy housewives. They are lingering, assessing. A group of young apprentices, their hands and faces stained with dye from a nearby workshop, stop their rough housing to watch you walk by. Their whispers follow you like a trail of smoke. A man much older, with a chain of office around his neck, slows his pace, his eyes cataloguing you from head to toe. It's a look you've seen before, but here, in this vast impersonal city, it feels more predatory. You don't have a father, a brother, or a husband to stand beside you. You have no one. You find a slightly recessed doorway to rest in, the stone cold against your back. You watch the lamplighters begin their work, bringing small pockets of flickering, uncertain light to the encroaching darkness, and in a puddle of murky rainwater, you catch a glimpse of your reflection. A pale oval face. Large, frightened eyes. Hair that has come loose from its braid. It's the face of a stranger, someone you don't quite recognize. You don't know it yet. But this face, this collection of features you were born with, is the only currency you possess. And in this city, you are about to find out just how much it is worth, and how much it will cost you. The gnawing in your stomach has become a dull, constant take. The city's energy, which was so overwhelming just an hour ago, has quieted into a low murmur. Doors are barred, shutters are drawn, and the darkness in the unlit alleyways feels absolute. You are starting to shiver, the cold seeping deep into your bones. Just as a genuine wave of despair washes over you, the feeling that you might simply curl up in this doorway and not wake up, a shadow detaches itself from the wall opposite you. You didn't even see her there. She crosses the narrow street in a few silent steps. She isn't dressed in finery, nor is she in rags. Her clothes are dark, practical, and well-made. A woolen cloak conceals her shape, and a hood shadows her face, but as she gets closer, you see eyes that seem to miss nothing. They are not kind, but they are not cruel either. They are assessing, like a butcher eyeing a prize cut. Lost, little bird, her voice is low, a little raspy, as if chefs spent a lifetime talking in quiet rooms. You can only manage a nod, your throat tight with fear and call to speak. She looks you over, her gaze lingering on your face, your hands, the state of your shoes. Hungry, I imagine. Another nod. She makes a small, decisive sound, a click of her tongue. Come, you can't stay here. The watch will either take you to the workhouse or a cell, and you're too pretty for either. The word pretty hangs in the air between you, heavy with unspoken meaning. It's not a compliment, it's an appraisal. She turns without waiting for your answer, clearly expecting you to follow. And you do. What choice is there? You trail in her wake like a ghost, your tired legs protesting as you navigate the labyrinthine streets. She leads you to a respectable-looking timber-framed house on a quiet side street. There's a single lantern lit by the door, casting a warm, inviting glow. It looks like any other family home. But as the heavy oak door closes behind you, the sounds of the city are completely sealed away, and the silence inside is different. It's heavy, watchful. The woman who you will come to know as Madame Melody leads you to a small room at the back of the house. She gives you a hunk of dark bread and a mug of weak, sour ale. It's the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. As you eat, she watches you, her head tilted. You have good stock, she says, as if commenting on livestock. Good bones, clear eyes. Once you've finished, she takes you to another room. This one smaller and windowless. In the center of the room, on a small table, is an object covered with a velvet cloth. With a small, almost ceremonial gesture, she pulls the cloth away. It's a mirror, but it's not the flawless, silvered glass you might imagine. This is a disc of highly polished metal, maybe steel or a pricey alloy of tin and copper called speculum. It's a luxury item, and its reflection is dark and distorted. The flickering candlelight makes the image swim and warp. She positions you in front of it. Look, she commands. You stare at the stranger in the murky metal. Her face is thin and smudged with dirt. Her eyes are wide with a fear that makes her look like a hunted animal. Her hair is a tangled mess. For a moment, you feel a hot flush of shame. Then, Madame Melody steps behind you, her presence filling the small space. Her hands, surprisingly strong, take your chin and turn your head from side to side. The jawline is good, she murmurs, her voice right by your ear. A little pale, but we can fix that. The teeth, she pries your lips apart with a thumb and forefinger, straight. No rot. Excellent. She releases you and you see her reflection now, standing behind yours. Her face is a map of calculations. The hair is dull but thick. Your hands are rough, but your fingers are long. There is potential here. Great potential. This is the moment. The true transaction. She isn't just offering you a bed for the night. She is showing you your new identity. You are no longer the girl from the village with a name and a family. You are a collection of features, an assortment of assets to be managed and marketed. Your body is a new, unfamiliar landscape, and she is the surveyor, mapping out its commercial value. This practice of a madam essentially purchasing or indentering a new girl, often by settling a non-existent debt for food and lodging, was a common, shadowy entry point into the profession. You stare into the warped mirror at the two figures swimming in the candlelight, the frightened girl and the calculating woman. Historians still debate the true nature of women like Madame Melody. Were they simply ruthless predators, exploiting the vulnerable for their own gain, or were they, in their own twisted way, pragmatists creating a structured, albeit cruel, system of survival in a world that offered desperate women very few other options? Some were former prostitutes themselves, perpetuating a cycle they knew all too well. Madame Melody places a heavy hand on your shoulder. Here, she says, you will have a warm bed, food every day, and clothes that will make men fall silent when you enter a room. You will be safe from the violence of the street. In return, you will be pleasant. You will be beautiful. And you will be mine. The reflection in the polished metal doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell the truth either. It shows you a stranger wearing your face, a product waiting to be polished and placed on the shelf. In the heavy silence of that room, you give a final, barely perceptible nod. The girl you were is gone, lost somewhere on the road to this city. The person in the mirror is who you are now. The next morning, your education begins. It doesn't involve books or ink, but posture and glances. Madame Melody's house, which seemed so quiet and normal from the outside, is a hive of hushed, purposeful activity. There are other girls, perhaps 5 or 6 of them, gliding through the hallways like pearl phantoms. Some are not much older than you, others have a hard, weary look in their eyes that belies their youthful faces. They don't speak to you. A strict hierarchy exists here, and you are at the very bottom. You are the new project. Your first lesson is in walking. No, no, Madame Melody chides, her voice sharp but not loud. You are in a long wood-paneled room, empty except for a few chairs. You walk like a milkmaid with your shoulders slumped from carrying pails. That is the past. We are selling grace now, not strength. She demonstrates, gliding across the floor as if on wheels. Her back ramrod straight, her head held high, her faint, mysterious smile playing on her lips, a light floating step. Let the hips sway just so, not like a tavern wench, but like a lady. You try to imitate her, feeling clumsy and self-conscious. Every part of your body feels wrong. Your feet are too heavy, your shoulders too broad. You've spent your life doing physical labor. This calculated, delicate movement is entirely foreign. The other girls occasionally pass the open doorway, casting fleeting, knowing glances. You can feel their silent judgment, or perhaps their pity. They've all been through this. Next is the lesson of the smile. Madame Melody sits you in a chair. Smile for me, she says. You give a nervous, hesitant smile. Wrong, she says flatly. That is a beggar's smile. It asks for something. Your smile must give something. It must promise a world of delight, but offer nothing for free. She leans in, her face close to yours. A slight lift at the corners of the mouth. The eyes must smile too, but with a hint of melancholy. Men find a touch of sadness irresistible. It makes them feel like heroes coming to rescue you from a secret sorrow. She makes you practice in the polished metal mirror for what feels like hours. Smile, now softer. Now as if you are sharing a secret joke that only you would understand. It's exhausting work, a form of emotional gymnastics. You learn that a specific type of smile is paired with a specific type of client. A bright, cheerful smile for the young merchant. A slow, knowing smile for the cleric who pretends he is only there for conversation. Each expression is a tool, a carefully selected key meant to unlock a man's purse. This highly codified system of non-verbal communication was the bedrock of a successful courtesan's career. It was a silent language understood across class barriers. A dropped handkerchief, the specific way one held a fan, the angle of a glance, all were part of a sophisticated performance. For you, it feels like learning a part in a play where you don't know the plot. After the smile comes the voice. Your rural accent is to be scrubbed away. Repeat after me. Madame Melody instructs. enunciating each word with perfect clarity. The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. You stumble over the unfamiliar vowels. She makes you repeat phrases over and over, correcting your pronunciation, teaching you to lower the pitch of your voice, to speak slowly, to make every word sound like a caress. Eamon doesn't want to hear about the price of turnips, she says dryly. He wants to hear his own name spoken like a prayer. The day ends with a lesson on adornment. Madame Elodie opens a large wooden chest, and the scent of lavender and cedar wafts out. It's filled with ribbons, silks and velvets in a rainbow of colors. Color speaks, she explains, holding a deep crimson ribbon against your hair. Red is for passion, for boldness. It catches the eye. But it can be too loud, too desperate. She discards it and picks up a soft, sky blue one. Blue is the color of loyalty, of innocence, a quality men are desperate to purchase and despoil. She finally settles on a ribbon the color of a pale spring green. Green, she says, weaving it expertly into your braid. The color of nature, of youth, of new beginnings. It is hopeful. It suggests you are not yet jaded by this world. The choice of a specific ribbon or a small accessory was often a signal. Some historians suggest that in certain cities, specific colors were unofficially mandated or adopted by women in the trade to make them identifiable. It was both an advertisement and a mark. By the end of the day, your head is spinning. You've learned more about the calculated performance of being a woman in a few hours than you had in your entire life. It's a strange and troubling education. You are being taught how to erase yourself, your walk, your smile, your voice, your very essence, and replace it with a carefully constructed artifice. You are becoming a beautiful, empty vessel, designed to be filled with the desires of others. That night, lying in your small, clean bed in the attic, you hear the muffled sounds from the rooms below, a man's booming laugh, the faint tinkling of a clavichord, a woman's soft, practiced murmur. You touch the green ribbon still in your hair. It feels foreign, a symbol of the bargain you've made. Madame Melody's words echo in your head. A smile is a promise. A glance is an invitation. You are learning the true currency of this house, and it has nothing to do with gold coin. It is measured in size, in illusions, and in the quiet, draining sacrifice of the self. Your transformation from a rural girl into a desirable commodity continues, and today's lesson is chemistry. Not the kind found in an alchemist's laboratory, filled with bubbling retorts and arcane symbols, but a more dangerous domestic kind of chemistry. The subject is the face. Specifically, the creation of a perfect, flawless, porcelain complexion. Madame Melody leads you to a small, well-lit room reserved for the intricate rituals of beautification. On a long table sit bowls, pestles, vials of liquid, and pots of strange-smelling substances. It looks like a painter's studio, but the canvas is to be your own skin. A lady's face is her fortune, she begins, her tone that of a master artisan explaining her craft. And the foundation of all beauty is a complexion as white as fresh snow. It says you do not toil in the sun. It says you are pure. Of course you are none of those things. Your skin, though naturally fair, has the healthy color that comes from a life lived outdoors. To Madame Melody, this is a rustic flaw that must be corrected. She shows you the primary ingredient, a heavy, white powder in a ceramic pot. This is Venetian CEO use, a cosmetic celebrated for centuries, a coveted secret of the wealthy and the beautiful. It is essentially white lead. She takes a pinch and shows you how to mix it with vinegar and a little water, whipping it into a smooth, thick paste. The smell is sharp and acidic. You must be careful, she warns, though her concern is for the product, not for you. A perfect application is an art. Too thin, and your natural color shows through. Too thick, and it will crack when you smile, and a cracked face is the face of a clown. She applies the first layer to your skin herself. It feels cold, heavy, like a clay mask. She works with concentration, smoothing the white paste over your cheeks, your forehead, your neck, even your chest, erasing every freckle, every hint of natural color. The process is slow and meticulous. When she is done, she hands you the polished metal mirror, The face staring back at you is startling, almost inhuman. It's a blank, white mask, a perfect, luminous oval. Look alien in this new landscape. You look like a statue at all, but the CE, our use is only the foundation. Now for life, Madam Melody says, picking up another pot. This contains a vibrant red powder. It's vermilion, a pigment derived from ground cinnabar mercury sulfide. Another beautiful poison. She shows you how to take the tiniest amount on a fingertip and pat it onto your cheeks and lips, giving the white mask a blush of health, a hint of passion. A small touch of kohl, made from soot or powdered antimony, is used to darken your eyebrows and line your eyes, making them appear larger and more dramatic. The final result is astonishing. In the mirror, you see a creature of impossible beauty. Your face is a work of art, flawless and radiant. It's also completely fake. This was the ideal of beauty for the erstwhile white face with rosy cheeks and lips, and darkened eyes. It was a look that screamed artifice, and that was the point. It was a status symbol, a clear indicator that one had the wealth and leisure for such elaborate and expensive self-decoration. Madam Melody seems pleased with her work. This is your public face now, she says. You will never be seen without it. What she doesn't tell you is the price of this beauty. The lead in the sea, or use will, over time, be absorbed through your skin. It will cause your skin to dry out, wrinkle, and blemish, creating a vicious cycle where you need more and more of the white paint to cover the damage it has caused. It can lead to hair loss, excruciating abdominal pain, and neurological damage. The mercury in the vermilion is no better, a potent neurotoxin. You are literally painting your face with poison. Historical accounts are filled with stories of the devastating effects of these cosmetics. Queen Elizabeth I, famous for her star-white mask of youth, is believed to have suffered from lead poisoning in her later years, a result of her heavy use of Venetian CER use. The irony is brutal. The very substance used to create the illusion of youthful perfection was actively destroying the wearer's health and accelerating the aging process. You spend the rest of the day practicing the application yourself, learning the right consistency, the perfect way to blend the red into the white. One of the older girls, a quiet, melancholic woman named Isabel, whose room is next to yours, watches you for a moment from the doorway. She doesn't say anything, but her eyes, deeply shadowed with kohl, seem to hold a universe of warning. Later that evening, you see her in her own room, applying a thick, greasy balm to her face. You catch a glimpse of the raw, irritated skin beneath before she turns away. That night, you struggle to sleep. The mask feels tight on your skin, and the chemical smell fills your senses. You are acutely aware that you are wearing a lie, a beautiful toxic lie. You have been taught that your face is your fortune, but you are beginning to suspect it is also a ticking clock. The leadened mercury, the very tools of your new trade, are both creating and consuming you. The mask is beautiful, but you can't help but wonder what will be left of you when it finally comes off, when it won't. Now that you have a face, you need a uniform. It's not a uniform in the sense of identical dresses, but a set of visual cues that broadcast your profession to the world, separating you from the respectable women of the city. This marking is a delicate balance. It needs to be conspicuous enough to attract the right kind of attention, but subtle enough to maintain an illusion of class and mystique. It's a public secret, a game of signs and symbols that everyone understands but no one openly acknowledges. Madam Melody takes you to the wardrobe, a large cedar-lined closet filled with gowns of silk, velvet, and fine wool. The colors are richer, the cuts more daring than anything worn by the merchants' wives you see in the streets. Necklines are a little lower, sleeves a little more dramatic, but the most important lesson is not about the dresses themselves, but about the accessories. In some cities the law is simple, she explains, pulling out a pair of canary yellow gloves. They force women of our station to wear yellow, the color of shame, of heresy. A yellow veil, a yellow sash. A crude and ugly brand. She tosses the gloves back into the chest with disgust. Here, the law is silent, so we make our own language. It is more refined. She drapes a brilliant red shawl around your shoulders, The color is electric against the stark white of your sea. I use makeup. Red, she says, her voice slow. The color of sin, of the whore of Babylon. The pious frown upon it. But their husbands cannot look away. She steps back, admiring the effect. A red shawl, a red feather in your hair, a pair of scarlet shoes peeking from beneath your hem. These are our signals. This use of specific colors or articles of clothing as a marker for prostitutes has a long and varied history. In some medieval European cities, these laws were explicit and strictly enforced. For example, in 13th century Marseille, prostitutes were required to wear a striped cloak. In others, like the Venice of the Renaissance, courtesans became fashion trendsetters, adopting daring styles and colors that were then copied by the very noble women who publicly scorned them. Historians debate whether these dress codes were primarily about social control, making sin visible and therefore containable, or if they inadvertently created a powerful, alternative form of branding for the women themselves. You look at your reflection. The girl in the white mask is now draped in a flag of crimson. It feels like a costume, another layer of the character being molded into. The shawl is beautiful, the fabric's often expensive, but it feels heavy, like a yoke. It separates you definitively from the women who walk by in their somber grays and browns. You are now officially part of a different tribe, a sisterhood of a different tribe, a sisterhood of the scarlet letter, whether it's a literal letter or a symbolic splash of color. But it's not just the color. Madame Melody shows you other, more subtle tricks. She teaches you how to tie a specific, intricate knot in a sash, a style only used by the women in her house. She gives you a small silver bell to tie to your garter, invisible but creating a faint, alluring sound as you walk. It's a strange, almost whimsical detail that speaks volumes. It's a secret signal, an auditory signature. Such odd, specific trademarks are whispered about in historical records and city ordinances, like the prostitutes of one German town who were allegedly required to have bells on their shoes. It's a peculiar detail, turning a human being into a walking advertisement. The most public marker, however, is your hair. Respectable women, especially married women, were expected to keep their hair covered in public with veils, coifs, or wimples. To show one's hair uncovered and styled was a sign of vanity, or worse, loose morals. For you, your hair is to become a primary to love seduction. Madame Melody unbraids your hair, letting it fall down your back. She brushes it until it shines. She teaches you how to curl it with hot tongs, how to pile it high on your head in elaborate arrangements woven with pearls and ribbons. Your hair is your glory, she says, quit into her own purpose. Let it be a net to catch the eyes of men. And so, your uncovered, beautifully arranged hair becomes your most blatant and undeniable sign. A rejection of the modesty that governs the lives of other women. Dressed in your new identity, the painted face, the scarlet shawl, the unbound hair, you feel a strange mix of power and profound vulnerability. You are visible now, inescapably so. When you walk through the house, the other girls look at you differently. There's a flicker of recognition in their eyes. You are one of them now. Later, you stand by a window that overlooks the street. You watch a woman your own age hurry by, a heavy basket on her arm, her hair completely hidden by a plain white cap. She keeps her eyes downcast. She is anonymous, protected by her conformity. You, on the other hand, are a spectacle. Your beauty, so carefully constructed, is not your own. It belongs to the public gaze. The red shawl feels like it's burning a mark onto your skin. It's an invitation and a warning, a shield and a target. It's the price of your survival, a beautiful trap you are now required to wear every single day. The scarlet fabric is the color of a rose, but it's also the color of a wound. The day you've been dreading arrives with an unnerving lack of ceremony. There is no formal announcement, no grim pronouncement from Madame Melody. You simply know. It's in the way she looks at you at midday, a final, approving nod. It's in the new silk chemise laid out on your bed, a garment far too fine for sleeping. It's in the tense, whispering quiet that descends upon the house as dusk approaches. The other girls avoid your eyes. a gesture that is not on but deeply isolating. They are giving you space to face what you must face alone. As the sun sets, casting long, somber shadows across the city, Madame Melody comes to your room. She brings a small tray with a goblet of wine, heavily spiced and suspiciously sweet. To steady the nerves, she says, her voice softer than usual. You take a sip. The liquid is thick and warm, but it does seem to send a strange, dull calm through your limbs, but it doesn't quiet the frantic beating of your heart. The ritual of preparation begins, the same one you've been practicing, but tonight it feels different. Each step is freighted with significance. The application of the white CERU's mask is no longer a lesson, it's armor. The smear of red vermilion on your cheeks and lips, as you stare at the doll-like face in the polished metal, you try to detach from the girl underneath. This is a performance. The character you have been building, the graceful walk, the mysterious smile, the soft voice must now take the stage. You are led not to the common parlor, but to a small, private room at the front of the house. Madame Melody leaves you there alone. You stand by the fire, your hands clenched in the folds of your dress. You can hear the sounds of the house, the distant clatter of pots in the kitchen, the murmur of voices from another room. And then, you hear the sound of the main door opening and closing, followed by heavy footsteps on the stairs. Your heart leaps into your throat. The man who enters is not a monster. He is not a leering villain from a cautionary tale. That somehow would be easier. He is utterly, disappointingly ordinary. A merchant by the look of his well-made but unfleshy clothes. He is perhaps 20 years older than you, with a soft, fleshy face and small, tired eyes. He carries the smell of damp wool and the faint, sweet scent of the wine he has already been drinking. He looks at you, a slow, appraising gaze that makes your skin crawl, and then he gives a small, satisfied smile. It's the smile of a man who has just purchased a fine piece of furniture. This first encounter was a crucial, and often romantic, turning point. For many women, it was the moment the grim reality of their situation became undeniable. There's a persistent, romanticized myth of the witty, powerful courtesan who chose her lovers. While some high-class courtesans did wield a degree of influence, for a girl in your position, there was no choice. The first client was chosen by the madam, often based on who would pay the highest price for the privilege of being the first. The concept of virginity was a highly prized commodity, and its sale was a significant financial event for the house. The man removes his cloak and settles into a large armchair by the fire. He makes no move toward you. Instead, he begins to talk. He talks about the price of wool from Flanders, about his shrewish wife and his ungrateful sons. He speaks to you not as a person, but as a vessel for his complaints, an ornate vase into which he can pour the mundane frustrations of his life. You remember your lessons. You nod, you smile your sad, mysterious smile. You murmur soft, encouraging words at the appropriate moments. You are a mirror, reflecting back the importance he so clearly feels he is owed. Your fear is a cold, hard knot in your stomach, but you push it down, hiding it behind the carefully constructed mask. You are an actress, and this is your opening night. The terror is real, but it must not show. Historians and sociologists often discuss the complex psychology of these transactions. For many men, the appeal was not purely physical. It was about power. It was the purchase of a fantasy, a beautiful, compliant, attentive woman who existed solely for his pleasure and validation, free from the complicated demands of a real relationship. For a few hours, he could be the witty, charming hero of his own story. The evening stretches on, a slow-motion nightmare. The wine you drank has made your head fuzzy, your limbs heavy. The man's voice drones on, a meaningless hum against the backdrop of your own silent panic. He finally falls silent, his complaints exhausted. He looks at you, his eyes now holding a different kind of hunger. He stands up. The final bell of the night tolls from a nearby church tower, its deep, resonant sound vibrating through the floorboards. In a normal life, that bell would signal the time to sleep, for safety, for prayers. Here, in this velvet-lined room, it signals the end of the overture and the beginning of the main act. The performance is not over. The hardest part is yet to come. You close your eyes for a fraction of a second, and when you open them, your face is a perfect, serene mask. A screaming thing locked in a deep, dark cellar of your mind, but on the surface you are calm. You are beautiful. You are ready. You learn quickly that the most draining part of your new life is not the physical intimacy, but the relentless emotional labor. Your body may be sold for a few hours at a time, but your mind, your attention, your feigned interest, those are on the clock every single second you are in the presence of a client. It is a constant, exhausting performance. Tonight, your client is a scholar, or so he claims. He is a thin, sallow man with ink stains on his fingers and a self-satisfied air of intellectual superiority. He doesn't want your body. Not yet. He wants an audience. He has bought a book of his own poetry, bound in cheap leather, and for what feels like an eternity, he reads aloud. His poems are terrible. They are clumsy, overwrought odes to classical goddesses, full of tortured metaphors and clunky rhymes about nymphs and satyrs. You sit across from him, your hands folded demurely in your lap, your expression one of rapt attention. You fix your eyes on his face, nodding at what you guess are the important lines, widening your eyes slightly at a particularly dramatic turn of phrase. You have mastered the art of looking fascinated. Inside, your mind is a million miles away. You are calculating how much longer he will read. You are thinking about the stew you hope is left over for a late meal. You are listening to the rain begin to patter against the window panes. But on the outside, you are his perfect muse, captivated by his genius. This act of feigning interest, of providing ego-stroking companionship, was a crucial and often overlooked skill in this profession, especially for those aspiring to be more than a common streetwalker. A successful courtesan was expected to be a conversationalist, to know a little about politics, art, and literature, all in the service of making her client feel brilliant. It was an incredibly sophisticated form of psychological service. The term geisha, a predecessor to the more widely known geisha in Japan, literally translates to art person, emphasizing performance and conversational skills over all else. While the cultural context is different, the core principle was the same across many societies. The commodity being sold was often an illusion of intellectual or emotional connection. The scholar finally finishes his reading with a flourish, looking at you with expectant, hungry eyes. He is fishing for a compliment. "It was breathtaking, sir," you say, your voice a soft murmur. You employ the trick Madame Elodie taught you: be specific, even if you have to invent it. The part about Diana's silver arrows, it was as if I could feel the moonlight on my skin. His chest puffs out. He is delighted. He has not paid for sex, he has paid to feel like a great poet. He has purchased validation, and you have sold it to him, wrapped in a beautiful package. This, you realize, is the real transaction. The physical part that may or may not follow is almost an afterthought, a consummation of the ego boost he has just received. You see this pattern repeat with every client. There's the brash young soldier who wants to boast of his non-existent battlefield heroics. You listen with wide-eyed admiration, hanging on every embellished word. There's the fat, anxious war merchant who frets about his business rivals. You listen with a furrowed brow of counterfeit concern, offering vague but soothing reassurances. There's the married nobleman who complains endlessly about his wife's piety and lack of passion. Sympathetic gaze that says, "I understand you," in a way she never could. You become a master of the responsive arts. You are a chameleon, a mirror, a sounding board. You learn to read a man's insecurities within the first 5 minutes of his arrival and to shape your performance around them. It is a draining, soul-erasing process. You spend so much time pretending to be what other people want you to be that you begin to forget who you actually are. Your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own opinions, they have no value here. They are, in fact, a liability. To express a genuine opinion would be to break character, to shatter the illusion. One evening, a regular client, a man who fancies himself a political philosopher, is ranting about a new tax levied by the city council. Without thinking, you voice a simple, practical question that your father, a farmer, would have asked. But if they taxed a grain merchant more, won't the price of bread just go up for everyone? The man stops mid-rant. He stares at you. The air in the room goes cold. You have made a terrible mistake. You have revealed a flicker of independent thought. You have momentarily forgotten your role as a beautiful, empty vessel. His face darkens. He is not interested in a debate or a discussion. He is interested in a monologue. You quickly backtrack using the skills you've been taught. "Forgive me, sir," you say, lowering your eyes demurely. "My mind is simple. I don't understand such complex matters. Please continue. I find your insights so illuminating." The moment passes. He grunts mollified and resumes his tirade. But you feel a cold sweat on your back. It was a close call. You have learned a valuable lesson. Intelligence in this role is to be used only in the service of flattery. Genuine curiosity is dangerous. Authenticity is poison. As you lie in bed later that night, the man's pompous voice still echoing in your ears, you feel a profound sense of hollowness. You've spent the entire evening making a fool feel like a genius. The effort has left you feeling empty and transparent. You are paid for your time, your body, your beauty, but the highest price is extracted from your spirit. You are selling slices of your soul, one feigned smile at a time. The huanyu, the pleasure, that you are supposed to represent is entirely one-sided. There is only the weary, draining work of maintaining the illusion. In this house of carefully constructed delusions and transcational encounters, genuine human connection is a rare and dangerous commodity. But it exists in stolen moments, in the quiet, shared spaces away from the client's gaze. Your only allies are the other girls, the other prisoners in this gilded cage. Your relationship with them is complex, a mixture of rivalry, camaraderie, and a deep, unspoken understanding of your shared fate. There's Isabel, the quiet, melancholic one whose room is next to yours. She has been in the house the longest, and the toxic lead makeup has already begun to leave its mark on her skin. She is an expert at hiding the damage, but in the harsh morning light, you can see the faint grey tinge to her complexion. She rarely smiles, but when she does, it's a genuine, fleeting thing that makes her look like a different person. Then there's Marie, fiery and pragmatic, with a sharp tongue and a cynical view of the world. She's the one who scoffs at the men's pretensions of their self-important pronouncements. She is a survivor, treating the whole affair as a grim, absurd joke. And there's little Annette, the youngest, who still seems to believe that one of the wealthy clients will fall in love with her and rescue her from this life. Isabelle and Marie watch her with a sad, protective fondness, knowing the heartbreak that awaits her. Your bonds are forged in the in-between times. In the late-night kitchen, after the last client has departed and Madame Melody has retired to her chambers, you and Isabelle might sit at the heavy wooden table, sharing a heel of bread and a piece of cheese, not needing to speak. The silence between you is comfortable, a respite from the constant performance of the evening. You might rub a soothing balm of chamomile and lard onto each other's chapped hands, a small, tender act of care in a world that treats your bodies as objects. Sometimes, Marie will join you, and her sharp wit will slice through the exhaustion. She'll recount the absurd pomposity of her client, a minor city official, and soon you'll all be stifling laughter, your hands over your mouth so as not to wake the madam. In these moments you are not competitors. You are sisters. You are allies in a silent war against loneliness and despair. You share remedies for ailments, a willow bark tea for a headache, a penurial concoction for a late monthly bleeding, a dangerous and uncertain practice. You share warnings about which clients are cruel, which are cheap, and which are strange, unnerving requests. This network of shared knowledge is your most valuable asset. This informal sisterhood, this culture of the brothel, is a fascinating area of social history. While often depicted as dens of jealousy and backstabbing, these houses also fostered powerful female-centric support networks. These women, ostracized from respectable society, created their own. They developed their own codes, their own hierarchies, and their own archies, and their own methods of mutual support. Historians studying court records and other documents find evidence of these women loaning each other money, caring for each other during illness, and even testifying on each other's behalf in legal disputes. It was a subculture born of shared necessity and shared oppression. One night you are woken by a muffled sound from Isabella's room. You slip out of bed and press your ear to the thin wooden wall. It's the sound of quiet, desperate sobbing. You hesitate for a moment. Intrusions into private grief are not taken lightly here, but you knock softly on her door. "Isabelle," you whisper. The sobbing stops. After a long silence, The latch clicks and the door opens a crack. Isabel stands there, her face ghostly in the moonlight, streaked with tears that have carved paths through her makeup. She has been sleeping in her CERUs, a dangerous habit born of exhaustion. She lets you in without a word. She is holding a small, crudely carved wooden bird. "It was my brother's," she whispers, her voice thick with grief. "Today is the day he would have turned 15. She tells you about her home, a fishing village by the sea, about the smell of salt and tar, about the brother she left behind when she was forced to come to the city. You don't offer platitudes or false hope. You simply sit with her on the edge of her bed, in the cold, moonlit room, and listen. You hold her hand, your warmth a small anchor in her sea of sorrow. In that moment, the rivalry, the professional jealousies, all of it melts away. You are just two young women, a long way from home, comforting each other in the dark. It's a fleeting, fragile moment of grace, a tiny flicker of humanity in the dehumanizing machinery of the house. You know these bonds are precarious. Madame Melody discourages close friendships, seeing them as a potential threat to her control. A client might show favor to one of you, sparking a jealousy that could be easily manipulated. Sickness or a loss of beauty could see one of you cast out, and the sisterhood would be powerless to stop it. But for now, in the quiet hours of the night, this fragile community is your lifeline. Sharing a secret, a piece of bread, a moment of laughter, or a silent vigil of grief, these are the things that keep you from becoming the hollow, beautiful doll you pretend to be. It's a reminder that beneath the white lead and the scarlet shawl, a person still exists. And in this house, that is the most radical and rebellious act of all. A new fear begins to creep into the hushed conversations in the kitchen, a terror spoken of only in whispers. It's a fear more profound than the wrath of Madame Melody or the cruelty of a client. It's a shadow that looms over every transaction, every feigned kiss, every moment of intimacy. They call it the Great Pox or the French disease, or the Neapolitan sickness. Everyone blames it on their enemies. It is syphilis, and its spectre haunts your world. You first hear of it in detail from Marie. One of the women from a rival house down the street has been afflicted. They saw the sores on her mouth. Marie murmurs, her usual cynical humor gone, replaced by a raw, naked fear. They cast her out. Just put her on the street. No one knows what happened to her. The image is chilling. A girl, just like you, suddenly rendered worthless, discarded like a broken piece of pottery. The disease is a mystery. No one truly knows how it spreads, though everyone has their theories, most of them tangled up in superstition and divine punishment. Some say it's a curse, a miasma in the air. But deep down, everyone suspects it is passed from person to person, a grim and invisible consequence of your trade. This epidemic, which swept through Europe starting in the late 15th century, was a catastrophic event. Its origins are still fiercely debated by historians and medical anthropologists. The most common theory, the Columbian theory, suggests it was brought back from the Americas by Columbus's crews. Another theory posits it was a mutated form of an existing old world disease that simply became more virulent. Whatever its origin, its impact was devastating, particularly for women in your profession, who were both its primary victims and its most visible scapegoats. The fear of the pox changes everything. It adds a new layer of dread to your nightly work. Every client becomes a potential carrier of a slow, agonizing death. You find yourself subtly inspecting them, looking for any sign of sickness, a lesion on the lip, a strange rash on the hands, a slight tremor in their grip. It's a useless, paranoid exercise. The disease can lie dormant, invisible, for years before its horrific symptoms emerge. The symptoms, as whispered about in the dark, are the stuff of nightmares. First, the painless sores. Then a fever and a full body rash. And then, after a period of latency, the terrifying tertiary stage, the soft, gummy tumors that eat away at flesh and bone, the madness, the paralysis, and the slow, disfiguring decay. You have seen people in the later stages on the streets, their faces collapsed, their noses gone, shunned by all. The idea that this could be your fate is a constant, cold presence at the back of your mind. You start to notice the small rituals the other girls perform, their desperate attempts to ward off the invisible evil. Isabel quietly recites a prayer to Saint Rock, the patron saint of plague sufferers, before a client arrives. Marie has a small pouch of foul-smelling herbs, thyme and rosemary that she keeps under her mattress, believing it purifies the air. You find yourself adopting these small, superstitious habits, knowing they are useless but needing to do something. One afternoon you see little Annette crying in the garden. She has a small red spot on her arm. She is convinced it is the first sign of the pox. Isabel and Marie rush to her side. Isabel, with her calm authority, examines the spot. "It's just an insect bite, you foolish girl," she says gently, but her hands are trembling slightly. The incident is a false alarm, but it sends a ripple of collective panic through the house. The fear is always there, just beneath the surface, ready to erupt. The terror of the disease also gives Madame Melody another turn of control. She begins to conduct her own crude inspections. Once a week, she lines you all up and looks you over, searching your skin, your mouth, your throat for any sign of the sickness. The experience is humiliating, another reminder that you are not people, but livestock, valuable only as long as you are healthy and unblemished. The threat of being cast out is her ultimate weapon. It ensures your compliance. It ensures your compliance. Your silence, your desperate willingness to maintain the facade of perfect health, no matter how you truly feel. This fear of sexually transmitted diseases had a profound impact on the regulation of prostitution. In some cities, it led to the creation of municipal health checks, which were often brutal, invasive, and served more to control the women than to protect public health. If a woman was found to be infected, she was often confined to a hospital prison, a pest house from which few emerged. Lying in bed at night, you can't help but think about the cruel paradox of your existence. Your livelihood depends on the illusion of beauty, health, and pleasure. But the very act of selling that illusion exposes that will roll you from the inside out, destroying your beauty, your health, and any chance of a future. The white lead on your face is a slow poison, but the pox is a swift and merciless executioner. The shadow of the great pox has fallen over the house, and in its darkness, the gilded cage feels more like a death row than ever before. From the small, grimy window of your attic room, you have a clear view of the bell tower of the city's main cathedral. Its stone spire seems to pierce the sky, a constant, silent reproach to the life you live below. Every day its bells dictate the rhythm of the city, a rhythm from which you feel entirely disconnected. The morning bells call the faithful to Mass. You watch them hurry through the streets, merchants in their fur-trimmed cloaks, artisans with their wives, their faces scrubbed and pious. They walk with a sense of purpose, of belonging. They are part of the moral fabric of the city. You, on the other hand, are just waking up, your head thick from the spiced wine of the night before, the heavy scent of a client's perfume still clinging to your bedclothes. As they go to pray for their souls, you are preparing to sell your body. The sound of the bells feels like a judgment. The midday Angelus bell rings out, a call to pause and recite a prayer. In the streets below, you see people stop their work, bow their heads, and make the sign of the cross. Inside the house, life continues as normal. You are likely in the middle of a lesson with Madame Melody, or mending a chair in a silk gown. The sacred moment passes you by. Unnoticed and unobtrused, you live in a pocket of the city that God's time does not touch. The evening Vespers bell is the most poignant. It signals the end of the workday, the time for families to gather, for doors to be barred against the dangers of the night. For you, it is the opposite. The Vespers bell is your signal to begin. It's the cue to light the candles, to put on your lead white mask, to prepare for the arrival of the first client. As the respectable world closes in on itself for safety and rest, your world opens for business. This stark division between the sacred and the profane was a defining feature of medieval and Renaissance urban life. The church was the center of the community, its teachings and rituals woven into the very fabric of society. Prostitution, while often tolerated as a necessary evil to protect the virtue of respectable women, existed in a state of moral exile. Women in the trade were often forbidden from entering churches during main services, required to sit in designated sinners' pews, or barred from receiving communion. You are physically present in the city, but spiritually you are an outcast. One Sunday, a rare day with no clients booked until the evening, a strange impulse seizes you. You want to feel normal, just for an hour. You want to be anonymous in a crowd. You take off your scarlet shawl, cover your hair with a simple dark scarf, and scrub your face clean of its paint, leaving it raw and red. You look like a simple serving girl. You slip out of the house and follow the stream of people heading towards the cathedral. The inside is vast and awe-inspiring. The sheer height of the vaulted ceiling makes you feel small. Sunlight streams through the stained glass windows, painting the stone floors in dual tones of ruby, sapphire, and emerald. The air is thick with the sweet, heady scent of incense and melting beeswax. A choir is singing, their voices soaring up into the rafters, a sound so pure and beautiful it makes your throat ache. You slide into a dark corner at the back, feeling like an intruder. You watch the families kneeling together, the children looking around with wide, curious eyes. You see some of your clients here. There is the wool merchant from your first night, standing with his stern-faced wife and two daughters, his face a mask of solemn piety. There is the scholar who reads you his dreadful poetry, his lips moving in silent prayer. They are pillars of the community, their sins washed away, or at least hidden, within these sacred walls. They can move between the two worlds, the world of piety and the world of vice, with an ease that is denied to you. The priest begins his sermon. He is a fiery orator, his voice thundering through the cavernous space. Today his subject is sin. He speaks of the temptations of the flesh, of the perfidious wiles of women who lead men to damnation. He speaks of even the apple, of Babylon and the scarlet woman. His words are like stones, and you feel as if each one is being thrown directly at you. The respectable matrons around you nod in agreement, clutching their prayer books tighter. You feel the blood rush to your cheeks. You are the enemy he is describing, the sickness in the city's soul. It is a deeply uncomfortable, undalienating experience. The very place that offers solace and redemption to others only serves to confirm your own damnation. Some theologians of the period, like Thomas Aquinas, argued that prostitution was a sewer in the palace, disgusting, but necessary to keep the main building clean. This necessary evil argument is a subject of intense debate among historians. Was it a pragmatic acceptance of human nature, or a deeply cynical justification for a system of sexual exploitation that protected the patriarchal order for you, sitting in the back of the cathedral? It just feels like hypocrisy. You cannot bear it any longer. You slip out before the mass is over, back into the familiar, grimy streets. The sun feels harsh on your unpainted face. The experience has not brought you comfort, it has only sharpened your sense of isolation. The world of the church bells, the world of public piety and communal grace, is not for you. You have been locked out, and the men who visit you at night are the very ones who hold the key. Back in the house, you reapply your white mask. The familiar weight of it, it is a shield against the judgments of the world outside. As you paint the red onto your lips, you hear the cathedral bells ring out again, signaling the end of the service. The sound is no longer poignant. It is just noise, the sound of a distant, foreign country to which you will never be allowed to return. Most of your clients are predictable, almost interchangeable. They are merchants, clerks, and artisans, men of some means but not of significant power. Their desires are mundane, a listening ear, a boost to their fragile ego, a temporary escape from their ordinary lives. They are the bread and butter of Madame Elodie's establishment. But one evening, everything changes. A different kind of client arrives. He doesn't come to the front door. He is shown in discreetly through the back, long after the city gates have been locked for the night. You are summoned to Madame Elodie's private office, a place you are rarely allowed to enter. The Madame, usually so composed, has a nervous energy about her. There's a flush on her cheeks, and her eyes glitter with a mixture of ambition and fear. The man sitting in the heavy oak chair opposite her isn't like anyone you have ever seen up close. He is dressed in dark velvet, the fabric so rich it seems to drink the candlelight. He wears no ostentatious jewelry, only a single, heavy gold ring on his finger, bearing a coat of arms you don't recognize. He is not young, but his face is sharp and intelligent, with cold, calculating eyes that seem to see right through you. There is an aura of absolute, unshakable authority about him. This is not a man who has to ask for things. He is a man who takes them. This is the precarious world of the high-class courtesan, the world you are about to brush up against. While most prostitutes serve the general populace, a select few catered exclusively to the aristocracy, the high clergy, and the powerful political figures of the day. These women could accumulate great wealth and influence, becoming confidantes and political players in their own right. But navigating this world was like walking a tightrope over a canyon. But a single misstep could mean a swift and silent fall. The nobleman, a baron whose lands lie just outside the city, ignores Madame Melody and directs his attention to you. His voice is quiet, but it commands the room. He doesn't want the usual parlor games. He has a specific and deeply unsettling request. He is part of a small, secret society of libertines, men of his class who have grown bored with ordinary pleasures. They are planning a private gathering, a pastoral mosque at a secluded country villa. The theme is classical mythology. He wants to hire you, and only you, for the evening. Your role is to portray a nymph, a spirit of the woods. This sounds innocent enough, almost whimsical, but the look in his eyes tells you otherwise. The costume, he explains, will be provided. It will be authentic, gauzy, transparent, and minimal. You will be expected to serve wine, to be decorative, and to be amenable to the whims of the guests. The payment he offers is staggering. He places a heavy purse on the table, and the sound of the coins inside is a dull, intoxicating thud. It's more money than you could hope to earn in 6 months of entertaining wool merchants. Madame Melody's eyes are fixed on the purse. You can see the greed warring with her natural caution. An arrangement like this could elevate the status of her entire house, or it could bring the wrath of powerful, dangerous men down upon it. The Baron's request breaks all of Madame Melody's carefully established rules. You are not to be with multiple men. You are not to leave the relative safety of the house for a private engagement. You are not to engage in anything that could cause a public scandal, but the sum of money on the table is a powerful argument. The existence of these clandestine aristocratic clubs and their decadent parties is a recurring theme in the social history of the era. Whether it was the Hellfire clubs of 18th century England or earlier, less formally named groups, these societies were a space for the elite to transgress social and moral boundaries with impunity. For the women involved, it was a high-stakes gamble. Being the favorite of a powerful nobleman could offer unparalleled protection and luxury. But it also made you utterly dependent on his continued favor, and vulnerable to his political enemies, or his own mercurial temper. The Baron gives you a cold smile. You will be perfectly safe, of course, he says, but the words sound like a threat. You will be under my personal protection. His protection feels more dangerous than any threat on the open street. Madame Melody looks at you. For the first time, she is asking for your opinion, though you know the decision has already been made. The purse on the table is too heavy to ignore. This is a test. Are you capable of handling this level of client? Can you navigate these treacherous waters? Your success will reflect on her. You feel a cold dread creep up your spine. The house, which has so often felt like a prison, suddenly seems like a sanctuary. The known risks of your nightly routine are nothing compared to the unknown horrors that a pastoral mosque might entail. You think of the stories you've heard, the whispers about girls who were taken to private parties and were never quite the same afterward, or who disappeared altogether. But you also see the opportunity. This is a chance to earn a life-changing amount of money. Enough to buy your way out of this house, enough to start a new life somewhere else. The thought is a tiny, dangerous spark of hope. You meet the Baron's gaze, your heart pounding. You remember your training. Your face must betray nothing. You must be the serene, accommodating creature you have been taught to be. I would be honored, my lord, you hear yourself say, your voice a calm, steady murmur that is a complete betrayal of the terror you feel inside. The Baron nods, satisfied. The deal is struck. As he leaves, Madame Melody finally picks up the purse, weighing it in her hand. You will be very, very careful, she says, her voice barely a whisper. Do not disappoint me. or him. The warning is clear. You are about to step onto a much larger, more dangerous stage. The audience will be powerful, the script unwritten, and the consequences of a bad performance are unthinkable. In the days leading up to the Baron's pastoral mosque, a new and more immediate problem arises. A small, nagging cough that has been bothering you for a week has gotten worse. It's a dry, hacking sound that you tried to stifle in your sleeve. Worse, a persistent rash has appeared on your shoulders, red and itchy. You hide it carefully beneath your clothes, but you know that if Madame Melody discovers it, you will be deemed unfit for the Baron's prestigious and lucrative event. Going to a licensed physician is out of the question. They are expensive, and their professional loyalty lies with the city fathers who grant them their charters. A diagnosis of anything contagious, from the pox to simple scabies, would be a death sentence for your career. So you turn to the shadow economy of healthcare, the world of back-alley apothecaries, wise women, and outright quacks who cater to those who cannot, or will not seek official medical help. Marie, ever the pragmatist, knows a man. HES not a real doctor, she warns you in a whisper, but HES cheap, and he keeps his mouth shut. She gives you directions to a dingy little shop in the city's poorest quarter, a place you would normally never go. Under the cover of an early, foggy morning, you slip out of the house, your face obscured by a heavy cloak. The shop is little more than a hole in the wall, its window filled with dusty jars of dried herbs, strange animal bones, and lumps of discolored minerals. The air inside is thick with a cloying, sweet and sour smell of decay and cheap incense. The man behind the counter is small and rat-like, with greasy hair and eyes that dart around nervously. A figure common in every pre-modern city. You describe your symptoms in a low voice, trying not to touch anything. Your cough, the rash. You pray he doesn't ask to see the rash, a request you would have to refuse. He doesn't. He seems utterly uninterested in a diagnosis. He simply listens, nods, and a greedy little smile plays on his lips. A yes, he says knowingly, as if he has seen this 1,000 times. An imbalance of the humors. The blood is too hot. It must be purified. This was the dominant medical theory of the time, inherited from the ancient Greeks. The body was thought to be governed by humous blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Illness was caused by an imbalance among them. The treatments bleeding, purging, and inducing vomiting were all designed to restore this supposed balance. The quack turns to a shelf behind him, filled with unlabeled bottles. He picks one out, a small dark glass vial containing a shimmering, silver-grey liquid. The cure, he says, holding it up to the light. Aqua argenti, the silver water. A powerful purifier, a few drops in your wine each evening. It will cleanse you from the inside out. The liquid is Mercury. He is selling you a solution of quicksilver, one of the most popular and dangerous remedies of the era. Mercury was the go-to treatment for a vast range of ailments, most famously for syphilis. The logic, as bizarre as it sounds, was that the disease was a type of internal rot, and the powerful, toxic properties of mercury could burn it out of the system. Patients were made to swallow it, rub it into their skin as an ointment, or even inhale its vapor in heated chambers called stoves. The cure was, quite literally, a poison. Historians of medicine have documented the horrific effects of these mercury treatments. It caused severe neurological damage, kidney failure, hair loss, and the rotting of the teeth and gums. The phrase "a night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury" became a common saying, grimly summarizing the fate of many who sought treatment for venereal disease. Yet, because mercury poisoning can cause profuse salivation, patients and doctors alike often mistook this for a sign that the bad humors were being expelled from the body. You have no way of knowing this. You only see a man offering you a quick, discreet solution to a problem that terrifies you. You pay him the few coins you have managed to hide from Madame Melody. He hands you the vial with a conspiratorial wink. "Your secret is safe with me, little lady," he says. Back in the safety of your room, you stare at the small bottle. The liquid inside moves with a strange, heavy fluidity. It looks magical, potent. You are desperate. The Baron's party is in 2 days. You cannot afford to be sick. You tell yourself it's just for a little while. just until the cough and the rash are gone. That evening you pour a few drops into your watered-down wine, just as he instructed. The liquid sinks to the bottom, a tiny, shimmering pool. You swirl the cup and drink it down. It has a faint metallic taste. You feel nothing at first. But as you lie in bed, a strange warmth spreads through your stomach, and you feel a tingling in your gums. You mistake this for the purifier beginning its work. You are drinking a potion of despair, a desperate gamble made in a world without science, where hope and poison could be sold in the same bottle. The quack's promise of a cure is a lie, but it's a lie you are willing, for now, to believe. The potential cost of that belief is a debt your body may never be able to repay. The Baron's money arrives the day before the Mars queue. It's not the whole purse he displayed so theatrically, of course. Madame Melody gives you a small, but to you, significant, fraction of the total payment. For your personal needs, she says, her tone implying it as a generous gift rather than your rightful share. Even so, the weight of the coins in your hand is a new and heady sensation. It's the most money you have ever held at one time. It represents a sliver of autonomy, a taste of freedom, and you know exactly what you want to do with it. For weeks you have seen it in the window of a draper's shop near the main square. It's a dress, but not like the functional, if fine gowns provided by Madame Melody. This one is a fantasy. It's made of deep blue silk velvet, the color of a twilight sky, so dark it's almost black. The sleeves are long and pointed, lined with silver brocade, and the neckline is cut in a daring square, designed to be trimmed with fine lace. It's a dress fit for a queen, or at least a duchess. It is wildly impractical and impossibly beautiful. This desire to spend newfound money on extravagant clothing was a common phenomenon, often criticized by moralists of the day. For women in your position who were denied most forms of property ownership or social mobility, clothing was one of the few available avenues for expressing status, success, and even a form of personal identity. It was a tangible symbol of their earnings, a way to wear their success on their backs. You contrive an excuse to leave the house, claiming you need to purchase some new ribbons. Clutching your small purse, you hurry to the draper's shop. The bell above the door jingles, and the shopkeeper, a dour man with spectacles perched on his nose, looks up. He recognizes you. His eyes flicker with a mixture of disdain and commercial interest. He knows where the money of women like you comes from. You point to the dress in the window. "I would like to try that one," you say, your voice more confident than you feel. He hesitates for a moment, then ushers you behind a curtain into a small, carved space. The dress is even more magnificent up close. The velvet is impossibly soft, the brocade cool and heavy. You slip it on over your chemise. It fits as if it were made for you. You look at yourself in the shop's small, cloudy mirror. The transformation is instantaneous. You are no longer one of Madame Melody's girls. You are a lady. The rich fabric, the elegant cut, it changes the way you stand, the way you hold your head. For a fleeting moment, you allow yourself to dream. You imagine wearing this dress not for a client, but for yourself. You imagine walking into a grand hall, not as a paid entertainer, but as an honored guest. The dress is not just fabric and thread, it's a vessel for a fantasy of a different life. The price he names is exorbitant, almost all the money you have. But you don't care. You count out the coins, your hands trembling slightly. The shopkeeper wraps the dress in a linen cloth, his demeanor now one of grudging respect. You have proven you can afford his wares. Smuggling the dress back into the house is a challenge. You hide at the bottom of your laundry basket, your heart pounding as you pass Madame Melody in the hall. In the privacy of your room, you unwrap it and lay it on your bed. It looks like a pool of midnight lying on the rough wool of your blanket. You know you may never have an occasion to wear it. It's too fine for the house, and you have nowhere else to go. But that doesn't matter. Earning it is enough. The dress is a secret, a tangible piece of a life you hope to one day have. It's an investment in a future self, a woman who is independent and free. This very human act of purchasing a dream item is something historians sometimes struggle to quantify. Economic records show the flow of money, but they can't capture the emotional significance of a purchase like this. For a woman whose body was a commodity, owning something of pure, Impractical beauty was a profound act of self-assertion. That night, you don't put the dress away. You leave it lying on a chair where you can see it from your bed. The mercury you took seems to have lessened your cough, or perhaps it's just wishful thinking. The rash on your shoulders is still there, but you tell yourself it's fading. You are heading into a night of great risk at the Baron's villa, but the sight of the velvet dress gives you a strange sense of courage. It's a promise you have made to yourself. It reminds you that the girl playing the part of the nymph is not the whole story. There is another you, a you who owns a beautiful blue dress waiting to be born. The dress is your armor, your hope, and your most treasured secret, all woven from silk and silver thread. The day after you buy the dress, still glowing with the secret pride of ownership, you are sent on an errand by Madame Melody. It's a simple task to fetch a specific type of expensive French soap from a merchant in the city's main market square. It's a bright, crisp afternoon, and for a little while, you feel almost normal. You are wearing one of the house's more modest gowns, your hair is neatly braided, and you carry a basket on your arm. You could almost pass for a respectable housekeeper or a lady's maid. The market is a whirlwind of sensory information. The air is filled with the cries of vendors hawking their goods, the smell of fresh bread from a baker's stall, the scent of lavender and roses from a flower cellar, and the less pleasant odor of the fishmonger's table. People jostle and haggle, creating a vibrant, chaotic tapestry of city life. You navigate the crowd, feeding a sense of freedom, of anonymity, that you rarely get to experience. You find the merchant, a prim little man who sells perfumes, soaps, and other luxury goods. As you are completing your purchase, carefully counting out the coins Madame Melody gave you, you become aware of a woman standing beside you. She is dressed in the severe, dark grey woolen dress of a devout and prosperous citizen's wife. A starched white coif completely hides her hair, and her face is scrubbed clean, with a pinched, disapproving expression. She is not looking at the merchant's wares. She is staring at you. Her gaze is not curious, it is filled with a cold, hard contempt. It rakes over you, from your carefully braided hair to the tips of your fine leather shoes. She notices the quality of your gown, the fact that your hands, they're not the calloused hands of a common laborer. She puts two and two together. You try to ignore her, turning your attention back to the merchant. But she is not to be ignored. Such finery for one of your sort, she says, her voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. A temptation for honest men and an affront to God-fearing women. The world seems to stop. The cheerful noise of the market fades to a dull roar. The merchant looks embarrassed, busying himself under his counter. A few people nearby turn to look, their faces a mixture of curiosity and pious agreement. Your cheeks burn with a hot, furious blush. In an instant, your fragile bubble of normalcy has been shattered. You are exposed, sure, but by a stranger's public condemnation. The sickness of this city walks in daylight. Dressed in silks paid for by sin, the woman continues, her voice rising with self-righteous fervor. She is performing for the small audience that has gathered. She is demonstrating her own virtue by loudly denouncing your lack of it. This public shaming, this verbal assault, was a very real danger. While prostitution was often a tolerated part of the urban landscape, it was also subject to the whims of public morality. Women in the trade could be subject to harassment, insults, and even physical assault with little recourse to the law. The perception was that by their very existence, they were a corrupting influence, and any attack on them was seen by some as a righteous act. Historians studying court records from this period often find that cases of assault against prostitutes were either dismissed or given much lighter sentences, a clear indication of their precarious legal standing. You feel 100 pairs of eyes on you. You want to run, but your feet feel rooted to the spot. You want to shout back, to defend yourself, but you know it confirm her accusations, turning you into the very image of the shrill, shameless harlot she is painting you as. Your training from Madame Melody kicks in. You must not draw attention, but it's too late. You grab your parcel of soap, mumbling a thank you to the merchant, and turn to leave. You keep your head held high, your face a blank mask, just as you've been taught, but as you push through the small crowd, you hear a final, parting shot from the woman. May God have mercy on your filthy soul. You don't stop walking until you are far from the market, your heart hammering against your ribs. You duck into a deserted alleyway, leaning against the cold, damp stone, and finally allow yourself to breathe. The shame is a physical thing, the bitter taste in your mouth. The woman's words sting more than any physical blow. She saw your fine clothes, your carefully composed appearance, your being taught to your assets and twisted them into weapons to be used against you. Your constructed elegance had not protected you, it had made you a target. This incident highlights a cruel paradox, a point of contention even among scholars. Were high-class courtesans who adopted aristocratic dress and manners genuinely blurring class lines and gaining a form of power, or were they simply making themselves more conspicuous targets for social resentment? Their finery a constant, irritating reminder of the moral compromises made by the respectable men who paid for it. As you make your way back to the house, the city feels different. Every glance from a passerby feels like a judgment. The anonymity you felt earlier has been replaced by a suffocating sense of being watched and despised. You realize that the white-lidded mask you wear at night and the mask of composure you wear during the day are the same thing. They are shields, but today you learned that even the strongest shield can be pierced by a few well-aimed, hateful words. The memory of your beautiful blue dress, your secret symbol of hope, now feels tainted, a foolish extravagance in a world that will always see you as nothing more than the sin you represent. The night of the Baron's Mosque arrives, and you return to the house, shaken but physically unharmed, with your story of success and your heavy purse. But the house you return to feels different. The usual hushed, professional atmosphere is gone, replaced by a palpable tension. The other girls are gathered in the kitchen, their faces grim. Mary's usual sardonic wit is absent, and little Annette is openly weeping. It's Isabelle Marie tells you, her voice flat and hard. The madame found out. Your blood runs cold. Found out what? She's sick. Truly sick this time, not a cough or a rash. The marks they appeared on her neck. Marie doesn't have to say the word. The pox, the great fear, the whispered horror, has finally breached the walls of the house. Madame Melody had acted with brutal efficiency. There was no compassion, no loyalty to the girl who had been her most reliable and graceful owner for years. Isabelle's illness made her a liability, a threat to the health of the other investments, and a danger to the house's reputation. She was no longer an asset, but a contagion. Where is she, you ask, a sense of dread pooling in your stomach. Annette points a trembling finger towards the ceiling, the attic, in the old storage room. The madam locked her in. She said she'll have the men from the pest house take her away in the morning. The pest house. It was a place from which no one returned. A place for the city to dump its sick, its dying, its unwanted. To be sent there was to be condemned to a slow, lonely, miserable death. You think of Isabelle, of her quiet kindness, of the night she shared her grief with you, of her sad, gentle eyes. The thought of her alone in the cold, dusty attic, waiting for the end is unbearable. The fragile bond of your secret sisterhood, the one thing that made this life bearable, is about to be broken in the cruelest way possible. The decline and fall of a prostitute due to illness was a tragically common story. Once a woman's health and beauty, her only capital, began to fade. Her value plummeted. Madames, who operated on pure business principles, would often cast these women out with no support. The stark reality contrasts sharply with the romanticized image of the tart with a heart. While individual women might show immense compassion for one another, the system itself was merciless. Later that night, long after Madame Melody has locked her office and retired, you hear a faint sound from above. A weak, scraping noise. Driven by an impulse you don't fully understand, you take a candle and creep up the narrow, creaking stairs to the attic. The door to the storage room is barred from the outside with a heavy wooden plank. Isabelle, you whisper at the keyhole. You hear a rustle inside, then her voice weak and raspy. Go away, you shouldn't be here. I brought you something, you say. You have a small flask of water and a piece of bread you saved from your own meager meal. You slide them under the door. You see her pale fingers appear in the crack of light to pull them in. Use it with your back against the cold door, the flickering candle casting long, dancing shadows on the attic floor. You talk to her through the wood. You don't talk about her illness or the pest house or the morning. You talk about trivial things. You tell her about the absurdly large hat worn by one of the Baron's friends. You describe the blue velvet dress you bought, your voice full of a hope you don't feel. You try to weave a small tapestry of words to keep the terror at bay, to give her a final night of something other than fear. She doesn't say much. Her responses are short, her voice tired. But she listens. In the shared darkness, separated by a locked door, your friendship has its final, heartbreaking chapter. This act of quiet defiance, of offering comfort at personal risk, is a testament to the bonds forged in this cruel environment. Historians who study the lies women often look for these small acts of resistance. Friendship, in a system designed to traumatize and control, is a political act. The academic debate over the agency of historical prostitutes is complex. Did they have any control over their lives? Some scholars argue that by forming these support networks and exercising small choices, they demonstrated a form of agency. Others contend that these were merely coping mechanisms within a brutally oppressive system, and to label them as agency is to downplay the profound lack of real power these women had. You are not thinking about academic theories. You are just a girl trying to comfort her dying friend. As the first faint grey light of dawn begins to filter through the attic's single grimy window, you hear the sound of heavy footsteps on the stairs below. It's Madame Melody, and she is not alone. You scramble away from the door and hide behind a stack of old furniture just as she appears at the top of the stairs, followed by two burly, grim-faced men. They unbar the door. You catch a fleeting glimpse of Isabel, huddled in a corner, her face a mask of terror and resignation. Then the men go in and the door is closed. You don't see her again. You only hear a brief struggle, a single, muffled cry, and then the sound of them carrying something heavy back down the stairs. You stay hidden in the shadows, trembling, until the house is silent again. The friendship that had been a small, warm light in your life has been extinguished. You are left with the cold, hard reality of your world. You are all replaceable. The moment your beauty fades or your health fails, you will be discarded. Isabella's empty room, her lingering ghost, is a warning to you all. In the weeks following Isabella's removal, a grim pall hangs over the house. Her absence is a constant, unspoken reminder of your own precariances. And you begin to notice something terrifying. The lead-white CER use, the very foundation of your professional mask, is turning on you. It starts subtly, a patch of dry, flaky skin on your cheek that doesn't go away, an inexplicable series of small red blemishes along your jawline. At first, you dismiss them as trivial, the result of stress or a poor diet, but they don't get better, they get worse. The lead, which you have been dutifully painting onto your face day after day, is beginning its insidious work. The poison is starting to show. Your immediate, panicked reaction is to do the only thing you know how: cover it up. You mix the CR you spaced a little thicker. You apply an extra layer, hoping to spackle over the imperfections and present the same flawless, porcelain surface you always have. But this only makes the problem worse. The heavy, occlusive makeup suffocates your skin, trapping sweat and oil, leading to more blemishes. It's a vicious, terrifying cycle. The cure has become the disease. You see the same struggle mirrored in the faces of the other girls. You notice Marie spending more and more time in front of the mirror, her expression a mixture of frustration and concentration as she tries to conceal a new breakout. You all become experts in camouflage, masters of hiding the damage being wrought by the tools of your trade. The long-term effects of chronic lead poisoning from cosmetics were devastating and well documented in period sources, even if the cause wasn't fully understood. It didn't just ruin the skin, it caused hair to recede, gums to rot. It attacked the nervous system, leading to tremors and paralysis, and caused severe, debilitating abdominal pain known as Devon colic. You are caught in a trap. To stop using the makeup would be to reveal your flawed, unprofessional self, making you worthless to Madame Melody. To continue using it is to actively destroy the very beauty you are selling. One evening, as you are preparing for a client, you stare at your reflection in the polished metal. The candlelight is forgiving, but you know what lies beneath the thick white paste. You see a network of fine lines forming around your eyes, not from age but from the chronic dryness caused by the lead. Your skin, which was once your greatest asset, is becoming your enemy. The mask is no longer just a layer of makeup you put on, it feels like it's fusing with you, becoming a permanent part of your identity, a beautiful facade over a decaying foundation. The psychological toll is immense. Your face, the source of your livelihood, becomes a source of constant anxiety. Every morning you wake up and rush to the mirror, dreading what new flaw you might discover. The application of makeup, once a simple professional ritual, is now a desperate act of damage control. Desperate for a solution, you turn again to the world of folk remedies and back-alley chemistry. Marie tells you about a nightly bomb that some women use to counteract the effects of the CER use. It's a foul-smelling concoction of lard beeswax, and, most disturbingly, mercury sublimate, another highly toxic substance. The theory was that the mercury would peel away the damaged top layer of skin, revealing fresh skin underneath, a chemical burn that further irritated the already suffering flesh. The idea of applying more mercury to your skin after the purifying water you took makes your stomach turn, so you refuse. Instead, you try something you overheard a washerwoman talking about in the market, of face mask, made of oatmeal and buttermilk. It's a simple, harmless peasant remedy. You sneak the ingredients from the kitchen and apply the paste to your face one afternoon when you are alone. It's cool and soothing. For a few minutes, you feel a sense of relief. But when you wash it off, the blemishes and dry patches are still there. There is no simple, natural cure for the damage being done by heavy metal poisoning. This desperation for effective skincare, and the wild, often dangerous remedies that were peddled, is a fascinating and horrifying niche of history. While the wealthy had access to expensive imported bombs and potions, many of them equally toxic, poorer women relied on kitchen cosmetics and the advice of local healers. The debate over whether these old wives' tales contained any genuine wisdom or were pure superstition continues. While some herbal remedies may have had mild anti-inflammatory properties, they were no match for the ravages of lead and mercury. As you wipe the last of the oatmeal from your face, you catch your reflection again. For a brief moment, you see the face of the girl who arrived in this city, her skin clear and healthy from fresh air and sunshine. It's the face of a stranger now, the ghost of a person you barely remember. You have traded that face for the mask, and the mask is now cracking. The beautiful illusion, you are living on borrowed time. You are living on borrowed time. Your professional life measured by how much longer you can keep the creeping decay at bay. The lead on your skin feels heavier than ever, not just a cosmetic, but the weight of your entire, fragile existence. One afternoon, seeking a brief escape from the claustrophobic atmosphere of the house, you find yourself wandering in a part of the city you don't usually frequent. Your wanderings led you to a small church, not the grand cathedral of the wealthy, but a modest parish church for local artisans. Drawn by the sound of a preacher's voice carrying through the open doors, you slip inside and stand in the shadows at the back. The preacher is not a fire and brimstone orator like the one in the cathedral. His voice is quieter, more earnest. And he is not talking about Eve or the whore of Babylon. He is telling a different story, a story of redemption. He is telling the story of Mary Magdalene. He describes her as a woman of great beauty, a sinner who lived a life of luxury, paid for by her transgressions. He paints a vivid picture of her, with her expensive perfumes, her fine clothes, and her unbound hair. It's a description that could be of you. You feel a prickle of uncomfortable recognition, but then the story turns. He speaks of the moment she met Jesus, how she fell at his feet weeping, and washed them with her tears, drying them with her glorious, sinful hair. He speaks of her transformation, of her repentance, and of how she became one of Christ's most devoted followers, the first to witness his resurrection. The story resonates with you in a way no sermon ever has. Here is a figure from Scripture who is not just a symbol of sin, but a symbol of the possibility of escaping sin. She is not just the fallen woman, she is the redeemed woman. The idea that someone like you, a beautiful sinner, could be not just forgiven, but elevated the status of a saint, is a radical and bewildering concept. The cult of Mary Magdalene was incredibly powerful in the late medieval and Renaissance periods. She was a complex and often controversial figure, a composite of several different women from the Gospels. To the official church, she was the ultimate symbol of the repentant sinner, a powerful tool for encouraging confession and penance. Her story offered a pathway back to grace for women who had fallen from society's rigid moral standards. She was the patron saint of a host of marginalized groups, including, most pertinently, fallen women. As you listen, you feel a strange and unfamiliar flicker of hope. Could there be a life for you after this, a life of penance and prayer, perhaps, but a life nonetheless, a way to wash away the grime of your current existence and be clean again? The idea is intoxicating. But as you leave the church, blinking in the bright sunlight, the feeling begins to curdle into something more like bitter irony. The preacher's story was beautiful, but it was just that, a story. The reality on the street is very different. Society might venerate the idea of the repentant prostitute, the sainted Magdalene, but it is nothing but contempt for the real, living woman who sells her body to survive. You see it everywhere. The same men who might piously donate to a chapel named for St. Mary Magdalene are the ones who secretly visit Madame Elodie's house. The church might praise her as a symbol of redemption, but it would still deny you a living, breathing version of her, the right to take communion at the main altar. The gap between the religious ideal and the social reality is a chasm. This very paradox is a subject of ongoing discussion among historians. Did the veneration of Mary Magdalene actually help the women she was supposed to represent, or did it create an impossible standard, a fantasy of redemption that was largely unattainable and served to mask the deep-seated hypocrisy of the society that promoted it? Some argue that by providing a model for Magdalene houses and other institutions for repentant prostitutes, the cult did offer a genuine, if harsh, escape route. Others argue these institutions were little more than prisons, exploiting the labor of women in the name of salvation. You think about Isabel, cast out not for her sins, but for her sickness. Where was her chance at redemption? Where was the compassion of the Magdalene story for her? She was not offered a path to sainthood, only a lonely death in a pest house. The story of the fallen saint, you realize, is a convenient one for the men in power. It allows them to indulge in their sins, secure in the knowledge that the women they use can, in theory, be redeemed later. It places the entire burden of sin and the arduous work of repentance squarely on the woman's shoulders. The flicker of hope you felt in the church has died, replaced by a cold, clear-eyed anger. The story of Mary Magdalene is not a promise of your salvation. It's a beautiful tragic lie, another performance demanded of you. First, you must play the part of the alluring sinner. Then, if you are to be accepted back into society, you must play the part of the dramatic, weeping penitent. In either role, you are still just playing a part written for you by men. The story isn't about your redemption at all, it's about theirs. Winter's grip on the city finally loosens, and with the first thaw comes the promise of carnival. It's a period of sanctioned chaos, a time when the rigid social order is temporarily turned on its head before the solemnity of Lent begins. For most of the city, it's a time of feasting, parades, and revelry, for you and the other girls in the house. It is the busiest, most profitable, and most dangerous time of the year. The energy in the city is electric, almost manic. The streets, normally so treacherous and grim, are filled with music, laughter, and the shouts of street performers. People who are usually separated by caste and profession now mingle in the squares. The key to this temporary anarchy is the mask. Everyone, from the highest nobleman to the lowliest beggar, conceals their identity behind a facade of painted papier-mâché, leather or silk. This tradition of masking during carnival was central to its function as a social safety valve. Behind a mask, a servant could mock his master, a wife could flirt with a stranger, and a nobleman could indulge in base pleasures without fear of recognition. For a few days, everyone is an actor on a grand, chaotic stage. The masks grant a thrilling anonymity. For you, this is a profound and dizzying experience. Your entire professional life is about wearing a mask, the lid white paint, the practiced smile, the feigned interest. But that is a mask of identity, a label that marks you as what you are. The carnival mask is a mask of anti-identity. It erases who you are. For the first time, you can walk the streets not as a known prostitute, but as a mysterious figure, a domino shrouded in a black cloak and a simple, blank white mouth. Madame Melody allows you and the other girls more freedom during carnival, as long as you are discreet and return with clients. One evening you, Marie, and Annette decide to venture out into the maelstrom. The three of you, cloaked and masked, join the throng of revelers moving toward the main square. The air is thick with the smell of mulled wine and roasting nuts. The noise is a deafening symphony of drums, fiddles, and drunken singing. It's liberating. No one gives you a second glance. You are not being judged, not being categorized. The leering stares and contemptuous glares you usually endure are gone, replaced by the playful, curious glances of fellow masked figures. Aim and rest as a court jester bows low to you. A woman with a fantastical bird mask offers you a sip from her wineskin. You are, for a few precious hours, simply one of the crowd. Marie, ever the cynic, is in her element, trading witty, risque insults with a group of masked students. Even little Annette seems to lose some of her fear, laughing at the antics of a clumsy bear dancer. You find yourself smiling a real, unpracticed smile behind the plaster of your mask. This temporary equality is exhilarating, but you are acutely aware of the danger that hums just beneath the surface. The chaos that grants you freedom also grants predators license to act. The anonymity that shields you also shields them. A hand that brushes against you in the crowd might be accidental, or it might be something more sinister. The line between revelry and riot is razor thin. You see a clear example of this when a richly dressed man, his mask a golden lion, corners a young serving girl. His playful advances quickly turn aggressive when she tries to pull away. In the normal world, his status would protect him. But this is carnival. A group of men dressed as demons, likely humble artisans, intervene. They surround the lion, taunting and jostling him, not with real violence, but with the threat of public humiliation. The lion, robbed of his authority by his mask, has no choice but to back away, cursing under his breath. It's a small, fleeting moment of justice, a reversal of the power dynamics you see every day. The historical significance of carnival, or the world turned upside down, is a topic of great fascination for social historians. Was it a genuine if temporary subversion of power structures, or was it actually a tool of the elite, a way to allow the lower classes to blow off steam, thereby reinforcing the existing order? In the long run, the Russian philosopher Mikhail Bakhtin famously argued for the former, seeing in carnival a potent, revolutionary spirit of folk culture. As the night wears on, the energy shifts. The playful atmosphere begins to fray, replaced by a more desperate, debauched edge as the wine flows freely. You see figures stumbling in the alleyways, their masks askew. The laughter takes on a sharper, crueler tone. It's time to go. The freedom was intoxicating, but it was an illusion, a dream from which you must now wake up. Back in the quiet of the house, you remove your plaster mask. Your face underneath is flushed with excitement and wine. For a few hours, you weren't a prostitute. You were no one, and in that nothingness, you felt a strange and powerful sense of liberty. The carnival mask gave you a taste of the freedom that the lead white mask of your profession takes away. It's a freedom you will crave in the long, quiet days of Lent that are to follow. A bittersweet memory of a night you were just another shadow in the crowd. The frenetic energy of carnival fades, replaced by the somber quiet of Lent. The city feels subdued, hungover. For the house, it's a lean period. The men who flock to you during the festivities are now atoning for their sins, their piety as performative as their revelry was. Business is slow, and Madame Melody's mood sours with her declining income. Her usual mask of pragmatic civility begins to slip, revealing the cold, hard calculus that lies beneath. This is when you feel the shift in her gaze. When you were new, her eyes held a spark of proprietary interest. You were promising new investment. When you were successful, her look was one of smug satisfaction. Now, her eyes are like those of a pawnbroker assessing a tarnished piece of silver. She is re-evaluating your worth, and she is not pleased with what she sees. Your health, which you have been desperately trying to maintain, is failing. The mercury cure you took left you with a persistent tremor in your hands and a metallic taste in your mouth that never goes away. The lid white makeup has done its work. leaving your skin sallow and blotchy beneath the thick layers of paint. You are thinner, your eyes have lost their luster, and a deep, weary sadness has settled into your features that no amount of cosmetic artifice can fully conceal. You are no longer the fresh, promising girl who arrived at her door. You are a depreciating asset. Madame Melody begins to make small, cutting remarks. You look tired, she says, her voice laced with disapproval. A client last night commented that you seemed distracted. She starts giving the better clients, the generous and easygoing ones, to Annette, who is still in the full bloom of her youth. You are assigned the less desirable men, the older, stingier ones, the ones who drink too much and have rough hands. It is a silent, cruel demotion. There is no formal discussion. It is all communicated through her cold glances, her clipped tone, and the quality of the men sent to your room. You are being moved down the pecking order. Marie, who has been in the house longer than you, suffers the same fate. The two of you, once rivals, are now united in a shared decline. This process of aging out was the grim, inevitable trajectory for most women in the profession. A woman's career was often brutally short, dictated entirely by her youth and her ability to maintain the illusion of perfect health and beauty. As she aged or her health declined, she would be passed down the chain, from a high-class brothel like Madame Melody's to lower-cost taverns, and eventually to the streets. The Madame's loyalty was not to her girls, but to her business. A woman who could no longer attract wealthy clients was a drain on resources. The psychological toll of this slow-motion devaluation is immense. Your confidence, which was always a fragile construct, begins to crumble. You start to see the pity in the eyes of the younger girls, the same pity you once felt for Isabel. You feel yourself becoming a ghost in the house, a relic of a more profitable time. One afternoon, Madame Melody summons you to her office. On her desk is a small, cheap-looking pot of rouge. It's not the expensive, finely ground vermilion you're used to, but a coarse, garish red paste. Your usual color is too subtle, she says, not meeting your eyes. You need something brighter, to give you some life. The insult is devastating. She is telling you that your natural allure is gone, that you now require crude, theatrical tricks to be marketable. It's the equivalent of telling a master painter to use a house painter's brush. The gesture is a clear and deliberate signal of your diminished status. The academic question of whether these madames worse abbey businesswomen or heartless exploiters feels moot. From your perspective, sitting in this chair being handed a pot of cheap paint, the answer is clear. She is a farmer culling a sick animal from the herd. You take the pot of rouge without a word. Arguing would be pointless. It would only confirm her assessment that you are becoming difficult, troublesome. You retreat to your room, your heart a cold, heavy stone in your chest. You look at the beautiful blue velvet dress, your secret treasure. The dream it represents, a future of freedom and dignity, feels further away than ever. How can you build a new life when your current one is dissolving beneath your feet? You are trapped. Your health is failing, your value is decreasing, and you have nowhere else to go. The house, which once felt like a prison, now also feels like the only refuge you have from the even harsher world outside. But you know, with a chilling certainty, that your time in this refuge is running out. That night, you apply the cheap, bright red rouge to your cheeks. It feels greasy and smells unpleasant. In the mirror, the effect is garish, desperate. It doesn't make you look alive, it makes you look like a painted doll, and not a very expensive one at that. You see the cold calculation in Madame Melody's eyes reflected in your own. The business of beauty is a cruel one, and the final accounting is always brutal. Your worth is being tallied, and the numbers are no longer in your favor. In the midst of this slow decline, an unexpected and dangerous possibility emerges. It arrives in the form of a man named Thomas, a client who is different from the others. H.E.S. not a merchant, a scholar, or a nobleman. H.E.S. a ship's carpenter, a man of modest but independent means. He is a widower, quiet and gentle, with kind eyes that seem to see past the mask of pain and sorrow on your face. He becomes a regular visitor, but not in the usual way. He requests you, and only you, once a week. He pays Madame Melody's full price, but he rarely demands the services she is selling. Instead, he asks you to sit with him and talk. He doesn't boast or complain. He asks about the village you came from, a topic no one has ever shown interest in. He listens, truly listens, as you haltingly speak of a life you had almost forgotten. With him, you find yourself letting the mask slip just a little. You don't need to perform the part of the alluring court scene. You can just be a person. He brings you small, thoughtful gifts, a handful of fresh apples from the market, a small wooden bird he carved himself, reminiscent of the one Isabel treasured. These simple, genuine gestures of kindness are more precious to you than any of the gold coins you have earned. One rainy evening, sitting by the fire in your small room, he tells you he has saved some money. He is planning to leave the city. He wants to buy a small cottage with a plot of land in the countryside, far to the south, a place where no one knows him. A place to start over. And then he says the words that both thrill and terrify you. He wants you to come with him. I know what people would say, he says, his voice low and earnest, but I don't care. I see who you are. Not what you do, but who you are. We could have a life together. A real life. He is offering you the ultimate fantasy, the dream that every girl in the house secretly harbors, to be rescued. To be chosen for love, not for lust. To be seen as a woman, not a commodity. The promise is so beautiful, so seductive, it takes your breath away. He is offering you an escape, a complete erasure of your past and a blank page on which to write a new future. The historical reality of such rescues is complex and murky. It certainly happened, but it was exceedingly rare. For a man to marry a prostitute was to invite social ostracism and ridicule. It was a huge risk for him. For the woman, it was an even bigger gamble. Was his offer genuine, or was it just a different kind of transaction, a way to secure a domestic servant and bedmate without having to pay Madame Melody's prices? The line between a genuine offer of marriage and a more permanent form of indentured servitude could be perilously thin. You are torn. Your heart, which you thought had turned to stone, aches with a desperate, hopeful yearning. The life he describes, a small cottage, a garden, the quiet dignity of a normal existence, is everything you have ever dreamed of. It is the living embodiment of the promise you made to yourself when you bought the blue velvet dress. But your mind, honed by years of cynicism and survival, screams with doubt. Can you trust him? Is this a dream or a cleverly disguised trap? You have seen too much of the world, too much of the fickle nature of men, to believe in simple fairy tales. You think of little Annette, who is still convinced a nobleman will sweep her off her feet, and the sad, pitying look she gets from you and Marie. Are you now becoming as naive as her? You look at Thomas' honest open face, and you want to believe him. But then you think of the logistics. How would you escape? Madame Melody essentially owns you. You are in her debt for your food, your lodging, your clothes. To leave without her permission would be to steal from her, and she would not hesitate to have the law on her side. She would have you dragged back, publicly shamed, unpunished. Furthermore, could you ever truly escape your past even in a distant village? Whispers have a way of traveling. What if someone from this city, a former client, were to recognize you? The shame and scandal would destroy not only you but Thomas as well. Your past is not just a memory, it is a brand on your soul, one that you fear can never be washed away. The debate over a prostitute's ability to reintegrate into normal society is a poignant one. While the church offered the path of the repentant Magdalene in a convent, secular reintegration through marriage was fraught with peril. Success stories were rare and often depended on the couple moving to a place where they could completely reinvent themselves, a difficult feat in a world without the anonymity of modern life. Thomas sees the conflict in your eyes. You don't have to answer now, he says gently. Just think about it. He leaves you with his impossible offer hanging in the air. For the first time in a long time, you have a choice to make. Not a small choice about which ribbon to wear or which smile to use, but a life-altering choice. Do you cling to the grim, familiar safety of the cage you know, or do you risk everything on the fragile promise of a key? The hope he has offered you is a beautiful, terrifying thing, and you don't know if it will be your salvation or your ruin. The choice is made for you. You spend days agonizing over Thomas' offer, your mind a battlefield of hope and fear. You try to imagine the life he described, but the picture is blurry, unreal. The reality of Madame Melodious house, the smell of beeswax and stale wine, the feel of the lead paint on your skin, the nightly performance is so deeply ingrained in you that any other existence seems like a dream. In your indecision, you make a fatal mistake. You become careless. The glimmer of a possible future makes you less tolerant of your present. Your performances with clients become listless. Your weariness, once a carefully guarded secret, is now plain to see. One evening, a wealthy client complains directly to Madame Melody, stating that you were sullen and unresponsive, and that your skin, even under the candlelight, looked unwholesomeish. That is the final straw. For Madame Melody, it's a simple business calculation. Your maintenance costs, your food, your room. The dwindling returns you bring in are now greater than your value. You are no longer a profitable asset. You are a liability. The next morning, she summons you to her office. The air is cold and still. She doesn't ask you to sit. She stands behind her desk, her face devoid of any emotion. It's not the face of a disappointed mentor or a cruel taskmaster. It's the face of a bookkeeper closing a ledger. "Pack your things," she says, her voice flat. "You have 1 hour." The words are so simple, so direct, they don't register at first. What you stammer, your mind refusing to comprehend. The arrangement is no longer mutually beneficial, she states, using the cold language of commerce. Your time here is over. Panic, cold and absolute, washes over you. "But where will I go? I have nowhere to go." "That is no longer my concern," she says, turning her attention to some papers on her desk, dismissing you completely. "You will leave the gowns I provided. They are property of the house. You may take your personal effects." The cruelty of it is breathtaking. After years of service, of earning her a small fortune, you are being thrown out with less ceremony than a scullery maid. You think of the money she is holding for you, the earnings she was supposedly keeping safe. You know with a certainty that you will never see a single coin of it. The concept of a Madame's Bank, where she would hold the prostitute's earnings for them, was oft unjustitute's earnings for them, was often a debt that could never be fully repaid, ensuring the woman could never afford to leave. You stumble back to your room in a daze. The other girls watch you go, their faces pale with fear and pity. They know they are watching their own possible future. No one dares to speak to you. To associate with you now is to invite Madame Melody's wrath. You are a contagion of failure. In your room, you look at your meager possessions. A few ribbons, a worn-out brush, the pot of cheap rouge, and the blue velvet dress. It lies on your chair, a magnificent, useless treasure. You cannot possibly take it with you. Wearing it on the street would make you a target. Carrying it would be an impossible burden. It represents a future that has just been slammed shut in your face. With trembling hands, you put on your own original clothes, the simple, travel-stained dress you arrived in. It feels foreign on your skin. You look in the mirror. Without the paint, the mask, the elegant gown, you are no one. The damage to your skin is now cruelly visible in the harsh light of day. Your face is sallow, your eyes are haunted. The healthy girl from the country is gone forever, and the beautiful court scene has been erased. What is left is a ruin. Your hour is up. One of Madame Melody's hired thugs, a hulking man who usually guards the door at night, appears at your doorway. He is there to escort you out. You don't even get to say goodbye to Marie or Annette. You can risk seeing Thomas again. You have no message for him, no way to explain. As you are led down the stairs, you pass the open door of your old room. A new girl, young and fresh-faced with wide, terrified eyes, is standing there. Madame Melody is showing her the room, your room, speaking in the same calm, proprietary tones she once used with you. The cycle is beginning again. You are simply being replaced. The heavy front door opens, and you are pushed out into the street. The door closes behind you with a final, definitive thud. You stand on the cobblestones, the noise and smell of the city overwhelming your senses. A moment ago, you were a part of a household, a member of a strange, dysfunctional family. Now, you are utterly, terrifyingly alone. You have nothing but the clothes on your back and a face that tells a story of poison and despair. Your beauty, once your greatest asset and your deepest curse, is gone. And with it, everything else. The city that was once the backdrop to your gilded cage now feels like an open-air prison. The freedom you have been granted is the freedom to starve. The first day is a blur of shock and disbelief. You walk aimlessly. The sounds of the city a dull roar in your ears. Every passing face seems to mock you. You see prosperous merchants and remember the feel of their coins in your hand. You see pious ladies and remember the sting of their public scorn. As dusk falls, the gnawing hunger in your stomach becomes a sharp, undeniable pain. You have no money, not a single coin. The small purse Thomas gave you for the apples is long empty. You automatically find yourself drawn to the market square, now mostly deserted as vendors pack up their stalls. The air smells of discarded fruit and vegetables. You see a bruised apple that has rolled under a table, and without a second thought, your eyes darting around to see if anyone has noticed. You devour it in a dark alleyway, the slightly mushy flesh the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. The shame is a hot flush that spreads from your neck to your cheeks. You have become one of them. One of the desperate, shadowy figures you used to see from the windows of Madame Melody's house. The beggars, the outcasts, the people who lived in the cracks of the city's society. The line between your life in the brothel and their life on the street, which once seemed so vast, has been revealed to be terrifyingly thin. That night, you try to find shelter in the same recessed doorway where you slept on your first night in the city. The symmetry is a cruel joke played by fate. But the city is different for you now. Back then, you were a girl with potential, with a commodity to sell. Your fresh-faced fear was in its own way an asset. Now, you are just a woman, worn and unwell. The men who pass by don't give you the lingering, assessing glances of potential clients. They give you the dismissive, disgusted look reserved for the destitute. Your fall from grace is written on your face. This downward spiral was the grim reality for many women cast out of the brothel system. Without savings, which were almost always held and controlled by the madam, and with no other skills, they had few options. Many were forced into street-based prostitution, a far more dangerous and less lucrative world, where they were vulnerable to violence, exploitation by street gangs, and harassment from the city watch. You try. One evening, driven by desperation, you stand in a shadowy lane near a tavern, trying to catch the eye of the men tumbling out. You try to summon the old arts, the tilted head, the mysterious smile. But it's a grimace on your tired, unpainted face. Your clothes are no longer alluring silks, but drab travel-stained wool. A man, his face flushed with cheap ale, stumbles towards you. He looks you over, a cruel sneer on his lips. "Get away from me, you pox-ridden hag," he spits, before disappearing into the night. His words are a physical blow. You are caught in a social no-man's land. You no longer have the beauty required for the high-class trade you knew, but you still bear the unmistakable stigma of it. You are marked. The way you carry yourself, a faint echo of Madame Melody's training, is out of place among the truly destitute. You don't belong anywhere. The days blur into a miserable routine of searching for scraps of food, of trying to find a dry place to sleep, of avoiding the city watch, who would sooner throw you in a lice-ridden jail cell than offer any help. You see the other fallen women, their faces hollowed out by hunger and disease. You see in them your own future. There is no camaraderie here, no kitchen table sisterhood. There is only a struggle for survival. Everyone is a rival for the same stale crust of bread. One day, you see a familiar figure across the square. It's Thomas. Your heart leaps into your throat. He is searching the crowd, his face etched with worry. He is looking for you. For a single, insane moment, you want to run to him, to throw yourself into his arms and let him save you. But then you catch your reflection in a puddle of grimy rainwater. You see the dirt on your face, the matted state of your hair, the vacant, haunted look in your eyes. This is who you are now. The woman he wanted to take to the countryside is gone. She died the day Madame Melody closed the door on her. To go to him now would be to bring this ruin, this sickness and shame into his life. You cannot do that to the one person who showed you genuine kindness. The question of whether love or kindness could truly bridge the chasm of social status is a poignant historical debate. While romantic tales suggest it could, the social and economic realities were brutal. A woman like you, sick and destitute, would have been seen as a huge liability, a drain on a working man's precious resources. You shrink back into the shadows of an alley, your heart breaking. You watch him as he continues his search, his worried face scanning the crowds. You watch him until he is gone. You have made your choice. You have saved him from yourself. As you stand there, shivering in the cold, you realize you have given him the only gift you have left to give, the gift of your absence. The role you now play is no longer the courtesan or the lover. It is the beggar, the ghost, the woman who has disappeared. Your life on the streets is a slow, grinding erosion of self. The days are endless, the nights terrifying. The hunger is a constant, dull ache, and the cold has settled deep into your bones. Your cough has returned with a vengeance, a dry, rattling sound that shakes your entire frame. You are fading, becoming one with the dirt and shadows of the city's forgotten corners. Your end seems not only inevitable but imminent. And then it comes not in the form of a final, merciful illness, but in the form of two women dressed in the plain, dark habits of a religious order. They find you huddled in an alley, delirious with fever. You barely register their presence. Their hands are gentle but firm as they help you to your feet. You are too weak to resist. You have no idea who they are or where they are taking you. Any destination is better than this. You are half carried through the streets to a large, foreboding stone building on the outskirts of the city. A high wall surrounds it, and the gate is made of heavy iron. Above the gate is a carving of a woman, kneeling, with long, unbound hair, washing a man's feet. It's Mary Magdalene House, or Magdalene Asylum, a Huituisuyan penitent's monastery. These institutions were common across Europe, created with the dual purpose of rescuing fallen women and removing their sinful presence from the city streets. They were a complex mixture of convent, hospital, workhouse, and prison. For some women, they were a genuine refuge, a place to find food, shelter, and a structured, if harsh, new life. For others, they were simply a different kind of cage, one where the bars were made of piety and relentless labor instead of silk and light. You are laid inside. The interior is dark, cold, and spotlessly clean. The air smells of lye soap, boiled cabbage, and incense. You are stripped of your filthy clothes, which are burned. You are bathed in cold water, your hair scrubbed and roughly shorn. The act is both a practical measure against lice and a deeply symbolic one. Your long hair, once your glory and to love your trade, is taken from you. It is the first step in erasing your old identity. You are given a simple, shapeless shift of rough, undyed wool. It chafes your skin. Your new life is one of rigid, unyielding routine. The day is structured by the ringing of bells, but these are not the distant, judgmental bells of the cathedral. These are the close, demanding bells of the convent, calling you to prayer, to work, to meals, to sleep. The work is grueling. You spend 10 hours a day in the laundry, your hands raw from the harsh soap and boiling water, scrubbing the fine linens of the city's wealthy patrons, the very men you once entertained. The irony is not lost on you. You are literally washing away the dirt of the society that created you. Other women are put to work in the kitchens, the gardens, or at spinning and weaving, their labor contributing to the convent's income. The food is meager thin soup, dark bread, and watery ale. Silence is enforced for most of the day. The only voices you hear are those of the nuns during prayer, chanting in Latin, a language you do not understand. The other women, the penitents, are a collection of broken souls like yourself. There are former brothel workers, adulterous wives cast out by their husbands, and young girls who became pregnant out of wedlock. You are all lumped together under the single, damning label of sinner. The historical reality of these Magdalene asylums is a dark and contentious topic. While founded with charitable religious intent, they often devolved into exploitative institutions. The line between voluntary penitent inmate was blurry. Many women entered willingly, seeking refuge, but found they were not free to leave. Their penance became a life sentence of unpaid labor. The most infamous examples of these institutions survived well into the 20th century, their stories filled with accounts of cruelty and abuse. Yet, for you in this moment, the place is not entirely a hell. The physical misery is immense, but it is a different kind of misery than the one you knew on the streets. There is a strange comfort in the routine, in the absence of choice. You do not have to wonder where your next meal will come from, or where you will sleep. You do not have to fear the violence of men in the night. The high stone walls that keep you in also keep the world out. The nuns are strict and distant, but not deliberately cruel. They see you not as a person, but as a soul to be saved, a vessel of sin to be scoured clean through prayer and hard labor. Your individuality is an impediment to your salvation and must be broken down. You are no longer the girl from the village, nor the courtesan from the house of illusions, nor the beggar on the street. You are simply a penitent, one of many, on a long, hard road to redemption. You are locked away from the world. Your past has been erased. Your future is a monotonous certainty. It is a living death, a purgatory on earth. But, in the profound, silent emptiness of the convent, you are, for the first time since you arrived in this city, safe. It is the peace of the tomb. The quiet of the chaos and terror you have endured. It is a kind of peace nonetheless. Months, perhaps a year, pass by in the numbing rhythm of the convent. The seasons change outside the high stone walls, a fact you only register by the subtle shift in the quality of the light or the temperature of the laundry water. Your life is measured in the cycles of prayer and work. The memories of your past life, the feel of silk, the taste of spiced wine, the sound of a man's laughter in a cabinet room have faded, becoming distant and unreal, like a story you read about someone else. Your body, once a source of both pride and anxiety, has become a simple tool for labor. Your hands are no longer objects of beauty to be kept soft, but calloused, capable instruments for scrubbing and wringing. The tremor has lessened, and the constant, metallic taste of Mercury is gone. The convent's meager but regular meals have given you a weary strength. The ceaseless work has exhausted your body but, in a strange way, quieted your mind. One afternoon you are working in the laundry, bent over a massive wooden tub. The suds are thick, and the steam rises to fog the air. You plunge a heavy linen sheet into the water, your arms moving with a familiar, practiced motion. As you stare down into the tub, the churning water momentarily stills. In the murky, soapy surface, you catch a distorted reflection of your own face. You stop, your hands submerged in the hot water. You lean closer, peering into the impromptu mirror. It's the first time you have truly looked at yourself in months. There are no polished metal mirrors in the convent. Vanity is a sin to be vanquished. The face that stares back at you is a stranger, but a different kind of stranger than the one you met in Madame Melodier's house. The sallow, blotchy complexion caused by the leaden Mercury has faded, replaced by a pale, clear skin that comes from a life lived indoors away from both sun and cosmetics. The frantic, haunted look in your eyes is gone. They are still sad, but it is a deep, quiet sadness, not the sharp edge of constant fear. Your hair, shorn, shortened now, growing back in an even tuft, frames a face that is unadorned, unpainted, and brutally honest. This is your face. Not the face of the frightened village girl, not the face of the painted courtesan, not the face of the starving beggar. It is the face of the woman who has survived all of them. For the first time in years, you see yourself without any artifice, without any mask. There is no white lead, no crimson rouge, no faint smile, no desperate hope, no cowering fear. There are only the lines of hardship and the quiet resolution of endurance. In that moment, a profound and unexpected sense of peace washes over you. You have been stripped of everything: your name, your caste, your beauty, your youth, your freedom. And in that absolute emptiness, you have found a strange kind of liberation. All your life, your face was your currency, your asset, your curse. It was something to be painted, preserved, marketed, and sold. It was the source of every transaction, every moment of false power, and every moment of true pain. Now, it is just a face. It has no value to anyone but you. For the first time, it is truly your own. This idea of finding the true self by stripping away all social constructs is a powerful theme in spiritual and philosophical traditions. In the context of your life, it's a stunning revelation. The beauty that was your greatest curse has been washed away, and in its place is a simple, unadorned humanity. The world may have written you off as a fallen woman, a penitent sinner locked away to be forgotten, but in the bottom of a laundry tub, you have found a self that is more real and more resilient than any of the characters you were forced to play. The historical debate over whether these Magdalene asylums were places of punishment or genuine spiritual refuge often overlooks this deeply personal, internal dimension. For some women, the forced shedding of their former identities, however brutal, may have paradoxically led to a form of psychological healing. By removing the constant pressure to perform, to be beautiful, to be desirable, the institution may have created a space for a woman to simply be beat at a space, for a woman to simply be. This is not to romanticize the harsh reality of the asylums, but to acknowledge the complex and sometimes contradictory ways humans find to survive and heal. A bell rings, signaling the end of the work period and the call to evening prayer. You pull your hands from the water, the moment broken. But something inside you has shifted. As you walk with the other silent women toward the chapel, you no longer feel like a prisoner. You feel like a survivor. You have looked into the abyss of who you were supposed to be, and on the other side, you have found the quiet, unbreakable core of who you are. But it showed you a truth more clearly than any polished mirror ever could. The sun is setting, its last rays filtering through the high, narrow windows of the convent chapel, casting long, dusty beams of light across the cold stone floor. You are kneeling on the hard wooden bench, shoulder to shoulder with the other penitents, a silent congregation of forgotten women. The nuns' voices rise and fall in the familiar cadence of the evening vespers, a river of Latin that flows over you without touching you. You are not praying. Your days of pleading with a God you no longer understand, or of being angry at his silence, are long past. Instead, you are simply present. You feel the rough wall of your habit against your skin, the chill of the stone seeping through your thin shoes, the hollow ache of a body that is always tired and never quite full. These simple, physical sensations are your reality now. You think back to the girl who arrived in the city, full of a desperate, nameless hope. You think of the woman with the painted face who learned to trade smiles for survival. You think of the desperate creature scrabbling for scraps in the alleys. They feel like ancestors, ghosts whose lives you carry within you, but whose fears no longer control you. You have walked through the fire of your own life and have come out the other side, not cleansed or purified, but tempered like steel. The great curse of your beauty, the central, defining fact of your existence for so long, has finally been lifted. And its absence is a profound relief. You no longer wake with anxiety about the state of your skin. You no longer feel the weight of a man's assessing gaze. You are not an object of desire, nor an object of contempt. You are, for the most part, invisible. And in this invisibility, you have found a quiet, unassuming freedom. The world outside these walls continues its frantic dance of commerce and courtship, of sin and piety. Men still seek out beautiful women in candlelit rooms. Pious wives still scorn them in the marketplace. Madame Melody has surely replaced you 10 times over. Thomas, you hope, has found his cottage by the sea and a simple, uncomplicated happiness. His memories are small, warm ember you hold in a quiet corner of your heart, a reminder that genuine kindness once touched your life. With no bitterness, no regret, his path was not yours. This final stage of acceptance, of finding peace not in escape but in resignation, is a difficult concept for a modern mind to grasp. We are taught to fight, to strive, to overcome. But in your world, for a woman in your position, this quiet surrender is its own form of victory. It is the victory of surviving a system designed to consume and discard you. You have not won the game, you have simply managed to walk off the board. Historians often struggle to narrate the end of such women's lives, as they typically disappear from the historical record once they enter institutions like this. Were they content? Were they miserable? Did they find God? The records are silent, leaving only speculation. The debate over whether this represents a good or bad ending is, in itself, a modern projection. For you, it is neither. It is simply the end of the story. You have found a sanctuary of a kind, without love, without freedom. But it is also a sanctuary without fear, and after the life you have lived, the absence of fear is a blessing more profound than any prayer. The final chant of the Vespers echoes and fades into the high, dark rafters of the chapel. A deep, resonant silence settles all is gone, and the world is draped in twilight. You close your eyes. You are no longer waiting for anything. Not for a client, not for a rescuer, not for a rescuer, not for a judgment, not for a final, merciful death. You are simply here. The beautiful mask has been shattered, the terrible curse has been broken, and what is left is a profound and unassailable quiet. In the gathering darkness, you have, at long last, found peace. And now, the story is over. The stone walls of the convent dissolve, and the scent of incense and old stone fades away. The distant echo of the nuns chanting softens into the gentle hum of the fan in your room. The hard bench beneath you softens into your own bed. The weight of her story lifts, leaving behind only a quiet stillness in the air. Her journey, with all its sorrow and its small, fleeting moments of grace, has come to its peaceful, silent end. You can let her go now. Let her rest in the quiet twilight of the chapel where no one can hurt her anymore. The world of her struggles, the city of vice and virtue, is a long, long way away from you now. Feel the weight of your own body, safe and warm under the covers. Listen to the sound of your own, steady breathing. You are here. You are here. You are safe. Her story was a vessel to carry you to this point, a gentle current to pull you toward the shores of sleep. And now you have arrived. There are no more dangers to face, no more performances to give. There is only the deep, welcoming quiet of the night. The end of the article. Good night.